Consequence Podcast Network.
My friendship to all of you precludes my involvement with any one of you. But if you wanna make love, then I do too, and I'll be right there behind you. All in the name of oh, all in the name of oh, all in the name of
Constant listeners, and welcome yet again to the Losers Club, a Stephen King podcast from Consequence of Sound. Well, it's hot outside, and it's even hotter in here, because today we're talking about the 1980 book Firestarter. But before we ignite this conversation, we're excited to welcome a new loser into the fold. Say hi, Mel, and tell everyone a little about yourselves, like how you got into Stephen King.
Hi, I'm Mel Kassel. I'm a writer myself, mostly short stuff. I work at an animal hospital right now to pay the bills. I got into Stephen King, I think it's because my father showed me The Shining, the Kubrick version, when I was way too young to watch it, and irrevocably scarred me for life. And I had to look up the source material, and really just finding the books of relatives on their shelves, and they had all secretively been into Stephen King when they were younger.
That's how we did too.
Got into it, probably shaped me a little bit more than it should have as a young person.
So was The Shining your first?
I think it was.
Nice.
It's really hard for me to recall. It was either The Shining or Pet Sematary.
Oh, two scary ones.
Yeah, it is funny. I feel like all of us have a similar, like, oh yeah, I saw this thing, I read this thing when I was way, way too young. Yeah. Do you want to, not to like put you on the spot, but Mel's a great horror writer, actually. Do you want to say where you can find your short stories?
Oh my gosh, sure.
Yeah, if that's okay. I'm not trying
to... of course. Well, I have a website. It's melkassel.com. That's Kassel.
Not Castle as in Castle Rock.
No, Kassel is in a town in Germany that's known for its raccoon population.
Nice.
Hey, it's besides the point.
There was a rabid raccoon attack in Bangor, Maine. Recently, we'll let Mel talk about our stories. And
I have very close ties to Stephen King. Right, melkassel.com. I have stuff out right now in Gamut, which has printed a reprint of Stephen King before, so I can sort of say I've been in the same magazine as Stephen King.
What reprint?
Yeah.
Oh, it was about 9/11, but I don't remember the name of the story.
What night? Oh, it's probably. Oh, it's in.
It's long.
It's in Everything's Eventual. It's like. It's something about the things people left behind in the office after like a 9/11 attack. I forget. It's a really good story.
I've not read that.
Yeah. I think it's something like that. I'll have to read. Hey, we're not on Everything's Eventual, so they have to forgive me. Yeah.
Well, cool. Well, we're excited to have Mel here and to hear her expertise in the horror genre.
She has a story called Gull that I really, really like a lot. So yeah, Gull as in a seagull.
There's a hard recommendation.
Yeah.
Thanks, Dan.
Five bright red Pennywise condos for that story.
Cool. So let's just we're going to go around and just introduce ourselves and talk about how we first read Firestarter, or what our earliest memories of Firestarter is. I'll kick things off. I remember buying Firestarter on a very, very hot day in the summer. I'm not even kidding. Like, my parents were obsessed with me because I was a total indoor kid, and I always wanted to play video games and stuff. And my dad would always be like, "Get out of the house." So one of the things I would do was I would just go like lay on the deck and like get like tan, you know, like get.
I thought you were going to say light fires.
I'd lay on the deck, close my mind off the whole
I remember,
world.
no, just a sidetrack. I remember like when my friends and I were really bored when we were young, we would buy like a 500 pack of matches and just go behind like a McDonald's and just light them.
Oh, whoops, tapped into something real there.
And, but no, I remember like, but so I would always just read a lot of Stephen King books, but anything, and I would just like lay out and get sun. So I was like really tan, and I would just read outside all day. And my dad was usually fine with that, as long as I was like getting some vitamin D. But I remember one day I had no book to read, and I was like, I don't want to like go pretend to play basketball for 3 hours or something. So
you go pretend to read.
Well, no, I rode my bike to a local bookstore, and it was like a Walden Books or something, and I just grabbed the first Stephen King book I hadn't read, and it was Firestarter. It was like probably one of the last ones because I had read a lot of his books by this point, but Firestarter was never one that like called my name necessarily, though I didn't know much about it. Like I didn't know the movie at all. So I didn't know much about it, and I remember I read it like really quickly while tanning on the back porch, which is I think a kind of a fitting way to read this book.
Did any did any girls ride by in the neighborhood? They're like, oh my god, there's Randall like tanning and reading. He's so smart, but also so
tan.
All I can see is like the slow male gaze, like from his feet up to, and then he's reading. You're like, oh.
So who's across from me? Who are you, and how did you first encounter Firestarter?
This is Dashing Dan Caffrey once again. No, I encountered Firestarter. I'd already started reading Stephen King, and my dad had a copy of the paperback first edition. So it's like the inverse of the hardcover. So instead of a white background with an orange fire, it's a black background with an orange fire, which I guess isn't the inverse, but that's besides the point. And it was really beaten up, and the cover was kind of shredded and had all these lines through it, and I couldn't tell that there were eyes and a mouth behind the flame. Like I couldn't tell what that was. So I remember just thinking, man, this is like the stupidest Stephen King cover I've ever seen. It's like this ugly fire. And so for whatever reason, that kind of like turned me off on it for a while.
Uh-huh.
And I remember I started reading it, and it just wasn't, and we'll talk about this a little bit later. It just was so not rooted in horror or not really scary compared to the other books I'd read of his so far. So it wasn't like high on my list, but eventually when I wanted to go through and read all of his works, I did probably a few years later. So yeah, I don't know. Firestarter didn't have like the draw, just the visual draw to me that like The Shining or Salem's Lot or Skeleton Crew or something like that did when I was younger.
Cover art matters.
Yeah, no, it does. It really does. I mean, and seeing the non-shredded version, it's really cool, actually. I actually like the cover a lot. Mm-hmm. But this busted-up copy my dad had, it looked like just a little cartoon flame.
Was it shredded by the claws of Cujo?
Yeah, I think and by Cujo, you mean my dog Charlie. Actually, no, it's funny.
Your dog's name was Charlie?
It was Charlie, yeah. Charlie McGee, yeah.
Oh.
No, Charlie did not rip up Firestarter, but he did rip up my copy of A Clockwork Orange when I was a kid, which also had flames on the cover. It's the one with the flames, and he's like screaming.
And then you put him down?
We did it to put him down.
Not because of that, though.
Yeah. No, we had to put him down, and not until 2012. It was 2012.
Oh my god!
It was at
You killed Clockwork.
2012 or 2011. It was when I was at Groupon. Mel and Randall and I are all old Groupon cohorts. I remember I found out, then I had to go to like a meeting, and I was just like, I'm so sad. Yeah, but
you should get to take the day off.
Yeah,
I think
it was that thing. It was that weird thing of like I felt like if I asked to take the day off, I would start crying, and so I wanted to wait till later, and that was good. But hey, he lived a good life. He lived to be 12, so
that's how Dan got into Firestarter.
Yeah. Charlie's a good boy. He was a good boy. Yeah.
Well,
Charlie.
beat that, Mac. So
this is McKenzie Gerber, and I was at a local library, and I feel like when you're a kid, you're always looking at the covers of things, mm-hmm. and there was a guy standing in one of the aisles reading Firestarter, and this was the cover that I saw, the original cover with the fire and
Max got a first edition
stuff
in his hands,
and he turned to me and said, have you read this? And I was like, no, I haven't read any Stephen King. And he said, well, that's a shame because I am Stephen King. And I'm kidding. I've never read this book. I didn't have any kind of introduction to it. I only watched the movie like this weekend. It's like one of the only Stephen King things I've never had any kind of contact with. I remember seeing like clips maybe or like a little bit of the movie on TV when I was a kid, but I've always been told it wasn't good. So I just avoided it. And like you, the hook of this was just not interesting to me. Mm-hmm. I just never cared. I was like, oh, girl can set fires. Obviously there is more to it in the book, but I just never really had any kind of anything. So this is my first time reading and watching the film.
Nice. And Mel, you're a first timer with this too, right?
I am. I did this for the podcast. I was aware of Firestarter, but I always thought, it's a poor man's Carrie. Like,
yeah.
Telekinesis is cooler to me than pyrokinesis, so I was like, it's kind of a step down. So I was aware of it, and I never gravitated towards it. Yeah, but I was very excited for Dan to contact me and be like, "Are you into Stephen King?" Was like hilarious.
Well, I figured you were, because I know you liked horror, and I saw that you liked the podcast, and it was funny though because I remember being like, yeah, let's get you on an episode, and what are your favorite 80s and 90s books? And it wasn't this one, obviously. And then it was like, oh, like I love It, I love like Pet Sematary. And I'm like, would you want to talk about Firestarter? I feel like that. I feel kind of bad. It's not. That
no, it's great to read something new. I had a lot of fun reading it.
And
and watching the movie.
Which edition do you have? You have a new one.
Oh, this is a 2016 paperback with a just super polished photographic still frame on the cover of a young girl in some fire.
I seriously think, constant listeners, you should check this out also. If any of you have read The Fireman by Joe Hill, which came out the same year as this edition, I really think they were trying to make the two look like each other. I think they were trying to capitalize on the Stephen King connection. Fireman is my least favorite Joe Hill book, but I love all of his other stuff. So
yeah, I've got the Signet edition.
I like that. I like those old Signet editions. They're kind of like what I think they're the ones I associate the most with, like being in high school.
Well, yeah, me too, because we were all like in this around the same time, and these were the ones that were kind of flooding the shelves. And so most of the books that I have, I actually brought in a bunch that I got while I was in Michigan, my parents' house, a couple weeks ago, and I just brought every time I would go, I would bring a couple books that were coming up. Because my wife and I made a concerted effort to like get rid of all of our books for less clutter. But then now that we're actually building up our little studio here and we're trying to collect all of our books, I brought all of them up, and most of them were Signet editions.
I remember those being, because they were just like in the grocery store, so it was really easy to get them. And I feel like minimalist design is popular now. Like, oh, take the Minimalist Muppets quiz on Sporkle or something. And I feel like these Signet editions, they're like minimalist King covers. Like like Christine has the one you sent us the photo of the tire tracks forming the skull, and it's so simple, and I love it.
And then like this version, it's basically a flame that kind of resembles hair to a degree, and then a human eye.
Yeah, it's
at
cool.
The bottom left. It's very simple, very neat. And
King looking good on the back.
He's looking. No, it's a very good.
Looking mighty fine.
He's no, it is like King's got some bad headshots.
Oh yes,
we love him. But have you seen like those 70s ones?
Some of them are
they're bad. But the Signet one they use it's good. It's good.
Yeah, the one he's looking all the way to the right.
Look,
you can see how thick those glasses are in this one.
Look at this. Mac is showing the first edition one. He's got his open, like, huge collar, probably squinty, coked out eyes.
I was about to say you could probably see the coke dust.
This is what I like to call Big Beard King.
BBK.
So speaking of cocaine addiction, no, seriously though, this is apparently the release of Firestarter kind of coincided with his quote unquote brand new cocaine addiction. So,
but
you said the release coincided. So was he not
when he was writing it? I don't think.
It?
Well, it says what I read was brand new. So I think maybe he wasn't on coke until.
I love that they're phrasing it like he just picked it up at the store.
I know, but they also describe him as his massive alcoholism. So I think that was probably his biggest vice leading up to.
If he was on coke with this book, that would make a lot of sense to me. Not because the book is especially crazy, but you'll see, I think, in like Tommyknockers and this and
Tommyknockers,
there's a certain directionless quality to a lot of his work around this time. That doesn't mean I dislike it, because I'm a Tommyknockers defender also. But
I am,
it would make sense going from The Dead Zone, which a lot of us think is his strongest book so far, right to this. Like, I see how they connect, but it also feels like tired compared to The Dead Zone, so it wouldn't surprise me if his brand new cocaine addiction was coming in.
The paranoia too.
Yeah, seriously.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's a good point.
And so just a few some history and context about this book. As we discussed in the Stand episode, King's relationship with Doubleday had fallen apart because of the length issues and the fact that Doubleday didn't really seem to take Stephen King seriously, even though he was making them shit tons of money. So he moved to New American Library for The Dead Zone, and The Dead Zone was just selling a lot more of his books than the New American Library was selling more of his books than Doubleday was anyways. There was huge leaps, like Doubleday had only sold like 50,000 hardcover copies of The Stand in its first year. And then Viking, in conjunction with New American Library, sold 175,000 of Dead Zone and 280,000 of Firestarter in the first year.
Really?
So Firestarter was actually a huge hit because he was like everywhere when both in film and in literature when Firestarter came out. So it was like a hugely best-selling book. And it was like a lot of people describe that this is around the time that he became like a blockbuster author, that his name became a brand, basically. Mm-hmm. And that's something that King himself discussed. Like, he basically said, New American Library recognized a brand name potential, and so and Doubleday wasn't really that way. They like didn't take him seriously because they thought horror was,
That's so weird because it wasn't like there wasn't proof by that point that he was doing well. Right? Like that's just weird. I mean, and we've talked a lot about on the podcast about, which isn't really the case nowadays, but about horror getting this bad rap or whatever. But it's so funny to me back then that, with as much as he sold and Carrie getting nominated for an Oscar and all this stuff, that they were still thumbing their nose up at him or something.
Well, it's interesting too because it was around this time that people all started to say, like, wait a minute, the Dead Zone and Firestarter they're not like horror like The Shining and Salem's Lot was, and The Stand was kind of, it occupied this middle area, like apocalyptic fiction. So King started to speak about the idea that maybe he wasn't totally a horror author, and he said when he was like kind of promoting Firestarter, he said, "I see the horror novel as only one room in a very large house, which is the suspense novel. That particular house encloses such classics as Hemingway's Old Man and the Sea and Hawthorne's The Scarlet Letter." So I think he was saying that horror is basically an outcropping of suspense, and he writes suspense books.
I think that's really accurate, actually, because that is the one shared trait, even in books like The Girl of Tom Gordon or The Green Mile, or ones that aren't horror at all, really, but they do all have that suspense quality to them.
Yeah, and so he also said later in life that he said, "The only books of mine that I consider pure unadulterated horror are Salem's Lot, The Shining, and now Christine." Probably right when Christine came out, because they all offer no rational explanation at all for the supernatural events that occur. Carrie, The Dead Zone, and Firestarter, on the other hand, are much more within the science fiction tradition. The Stand actually has a foot in both camps. So he was recognizing that, although I do think, like, I found myself a little spooked by a couple things in Firestarter, and I was not expecting to.
I found myself spooked by his overuse of simile.
Oh, we'll get there.
Right, guys.
Despite
Jumping the gun. Sorry.
Despite the overuse of similes, the book went on to win a British Fantasy Award, a Locust Pole Award, and a Balrog Award. So,
Matt and I just looked at each other. We love Balrog.
Balrog. And we were making Balrog jokes in our text thread.
You were making Balrog like the Street Fighter. No, wait, no, that's not true.
I can't remember.
It was a crazy tag. Yeah,
Scott Balrog.
There's this. Mac, explain Scott Balrog really quick, because I think that's really funny.
Oh God, I think we were watching. I think it was Return of the King, and we were watching the credits, and it was like the extended version. So they had like the 10,000 names of the people that contributed. Just regular people. And at one point, one of the names was Scott Balrog. Am I right? Am I making that up?
I think that's right. Who obviously wasn't playing the Balrog.
And we just never let it die and just ran it into the ground.
There's a Photoshop somewhere. Did Paul create it, or one of you guys did, of the idea that like Scott Balrog, it was the actor playing the Balrog, but he was a Balrog just going to work, and so it's like the Balrog with like a suit and tie, like, oh, I'm Scott Balrog, I do insurance, and we should see if we gotta have that.
I'm sure someone has it.
You guys know he says Balrog in this book, right?
Oh yeah,
wait, does
he? Yeah, he does. He says Rainbird is a troll, an orc, a Balrog of a man.
Oh man,
I forgot.
Yeah, I think Justin gave me his notes because you couldn't be here, and I'm pretty sure he cited that, and we talked about it. Yeah, I couldn't believe it.
Has King referenced the Lord of the Rings in every one of his books so far? He always referenced like The Stand, definitely. I mean, I feel like he always talks about that. Although Charlie's more of a Balrog because Balrogs are technically fire demons. Being a Lord of the Rings scholar.
Are you saying Charlie's a demon?
yeah. Charlie would be the Chuck Balrog.
I wish King would just make Tom Bombadil references in every book.
Oh God.
So the movie. So there was a film made. We're going to just discuss it later. But that came out, I think, like a couple years after the book. What was it, like 82? And the book was released in 1980.
I remember.
Yeah. And so, but then there was a sequel made that we're going to discuss a little bit, which I didn't even know about. It was literally called Firestarter 2 Rekindled. And that was a TV movie, right, Mac?
Yeah, it was a 2-part miniseries.
Yeah.
And we're going to chat about it. Unfortunately, it is nowhere to be found. It is not on any platform streaming, not even on YouTube.
I vaguely remember
surprised.
when it came out, but I never saw it.
And so, but actually, I was just reading that in 2014 they announced a TV series called The Shop that would be about Charlie trying to shut down the shop with like other, quote unquote mutants or whatever. And so, but I was Googling and looking around and I couldn't find anything other than that announcement from 2014. So I doubt anything's happening.
Yeah, I don't think anything came to fruition. And it was 1984 that the movie came out.
Oh, okay. Wow.
What was the day? The day. Because I was born in 1984.
Oh,
so
boy.
It was July 25th.
Could be your soul movie.
It was July 25th.
Was it?
No, I don't know.
And Firestarter was in the news recently, though, because our favorite Hollywood hack, Akiva Goldsman, is adapting it for Blumhouse Productions, a new version of Firestarter that probably inspired, honestly,
wait, no.
Stranger Things.
Akiva Goldsman's not adapting it. Oh,
no.
Sorry.
He's adapting Firestarter.
I'm an idiot.
Yeah.
Sorry. You're saying he's adapting it.
It did sound like that, though. It did sound like that.
But he did adapt Dark Tower, right?
He worked on it. I think he added his Hollywood hack touch to it, which is what he does for a lot of movies.
I'm going to laugh my ass off if one of us one day for some reason gets like tapped by Akiva Goldsman to like help out in some awesome film, and then it has to be Randall. Then he goes back to it and just finds Randall.
He does it just to destroy me.
Yeah,
it's like Whiplash. Like right before the big moment, he comes and he says, "Hollywood hack, huh?"
All right, perfect. So let's. Who does anybody want to read the synopsis? Mac.
So I've got the old Viking version, the old first edition. It says, this is long.
Just read them.
Just read it.
Yeah.
In 1969, Andy McGee and Vicki Tomlinson participate in a drug experiment run by a veiled government agency known as The Shop. 1 year later, they marry. 2 years after that, their little girl Charlie sets her teddy bear on fire by looking at it. Now that Charlie is 8, she doesn't start fires anymore. Her parents have taught her to control her pyrokinesis. Wow, let's just give the whole book away. The ability to set anything, toys, clothes, even people aflame. But the Shop knows about and wants this pigtailed ultimate weapon.
That's the awkwardest phrase.
That is in quotes, too. Shop agents set out to hunt down Charlie and her father in a ruthless and terrifying chase that ranges from the streets of New York to the backwoods of Vermont. And once they get her, they plan to use Charlie's capacity for love to force her into developing a power as horrifyingly destructive as it is seductive. What they don't take into account, I don't know about that, but what they don't take into account is that even a child can know the pleasure of the whip hand and the satisfaction of revenge. Let the reader beware, for Firestarter is Stephen King at his most mesmerizing and menacing. And then we get the big beard picture of King.
The pleasure of the whip hand.
I'll tell you what, they really just...
I was going to say, there are a lot of weird phrases in that synopsis, like seductive. Well, and it's weird, too, because they go, but she understands. Like, they essentially say seductive, and then it goes, but she understands it's seductive. It's like weird. It's like weird.
I mean, honestly, all you need is this cover, and then this little blurb from the book that says, Andy could feel something building in the air, building up around Charlie like an electric charge. The hair on his arms suddenly began to stir and move like kelp in an invisible tide. He looked down at her and saw her face, so small, now so strange. It's coming, he thought, helplessly. It's coming. Oh my God, it really is. I mean, that's enough to draw you in, you know?
Can I point out?
I'm interested. What's coming?
Two similes right in that little thing. I'm not joking, dude. There's I'll find it later. There's a page that's 8 oh, she did this. It was like this. It was like this.
Help.
My headache was like this. My headache was like this. Oh, boy.
Here's the Signet synopsis. First, a man and a woman are subjects of a top-secret government experiment designed to produce extraordinary psychic powers. Then, they are married and have a child, a daughter. Early on, the daughter shows signs of a wild and horrifying force growing within her. Desperately, her parents try to train her to keep that force in check, to act normal. Now the government wants its brainchild back for its own insane ends. That's like the non-Coke edition of it.
Yeah.
I don't know if their ends are insane.
Yeah, I don't know, man. I feel like they're really banking hard on how crazy this book is.
Yeah.
It's just, anyway, I'm not gonna. I'm being so negative. I'm
Mel, what does your synopsis say?
I think mine's pretty on point. Andy McGee and Vicki Tomlinson were once college students looking to make some extra cash, volunteering as test subjects for an experiment orchestrated by the clandestine government organization known as the Shop. But the outcome unlocked exceptional latent psychic talents for the two of them, manifesting in even more terrifying ways when they fell in love and had a child. Their daughter Charlie has been gifted with the most extraordinary and uncontrollable power ever seen, pyrokinesis, the ability to create fire with her mind. Now the merciless agents of the Shop are in hot pursuit to apprehend this unexpected genetic anomaly for their own diabolical ends by any means necessary, including violent actions that may well ignite the entire world around them, as Charlie retaliates with a fury of her own, and Time calls it his highest Fahrenheit reading yet.
Oh, good
man,
Lord.
All the flame puns. I have the first edition paperback, and I had a quote from Playboy, because Playboy actually did have a pretty, or maybe, I don't know, they still have a pretty respected book review section. I don't know.
We've always been reading it for the articles.
Yeah, always the fiction. But like they actually, this is what cracked me up. Their praise of it was saying how good it was. But they did like the ellipses thing where they're just taking out words and it said like sizzling hot. So like Stephen King. And I'm like, I don't know. It's just like it was Playboy. They had just said to say hot.
I think that's I think all this talk of like sexuality with this book is really interesting.
It's just like none in it.
Well, that's the thing is like it lends itself, I think. So I think that pivots nicely to the hook.
Ah, yes. Don't you see? Don't you see how clear it all is? Not only can you see the future, I can change it. You can change it, exactly.
So the hook here, I think, is pyrokinesis. I think that's sort of the grandstanding thing. And we're going to use that to sort of explore some of the themes in the book. So what is pyrokinesis? Why is that sort of a good vessel to tell this story? What do you guys think?
Is it a good vessel? I don't know. I mean, everything else so far just seems so meaty and so Stephen King using it to talk about a bigger picture issue. The Stand, going into religion, Salem's Lot, going into small towns, all this stuff. And when it comes to, this person can set fires with their minds, I mean, like you said, maybe it ties to paranoia and everything, but I guess I can't really think of I don't know, it's just not compelling to me. Like, someone can set fires with their mind. And maybe this was like the first, I'm trying to think if this is the first book that had that kind of thing. Or, I mean, I guess the only place we'd seen it before that is maybe in comic books or something. So, I mean, that's one of my issues with the book. It doesn't feel super unique, but what do you guys think?
Well, it's weird because I feel like it is set up like it's this pyrokinesis novel, but like I feel like so much of it is from Andy's point of view too. And his whole telekinesis pushing ability. So, I mean, I know it's called Firestarter, and I mean, not that Charlie's not like a huge main character, but I guess it's more. I don't know. It's a strange hook because it's almost like I wish there were more people doing like Firestarter Rekindled. As ridiculous as I'm sure that is, like when I was reading the synopsis of it, it sounded a little more interesting because it was a lot of different Shop people that had abilities that were like trying to track Charlie down. And some of their abilities were like genuinely interesting. But so I wondered if we would go that route. But I think just the whole government conspiracy and government doing tests on its people was trying to be the hook, I think. But it doesn't really do that. It doesn't really achieve that, I feel.
I think there's two hooks. One is the pyrokinesis, and I think that's like the whole thread is that it's uncontrollable and she's a kid, so it's doubly uncontrollable. And that's what's scary about fire, too, is that once it gets going, you can't do much about it. So there's that whole like young girl with a potentially uncontrollable power who's not going through puberty, but she's going through a lot, and like at any point her emotions could bubble over, and that's dangerous. So it's doubly dangerous because she's a kid. And the other one is what you're saying, the like sinister government agency following them.
I think each of those has like some interesting precedents. Like, it was around this time probably that there were rumors were starting about that the CIA was doing tests on people using LSD, and like that LSD was like being manipulated by the government to become like a weapon, and like kind of in the wake of the hippie movement. And so and I remember they even mentioned at one point, I think it's on page 110
of the Signet
edition. We always have to clarify that. So, I think it's OJ has a line where he talks about, I won't say flat out I don't believe you, not with some of the things that have gone on undercover in this country and then come out. CIA guys giving people drinks spiked with LSD and some FBI agent accused of killing people during the civil rights marches and money in brown bags and all that shit. So some people have pointed that Firestarter is sort of accumulation of Stephen King's sort of like liberal bending, like left-wing beliefs, which he still holds to this day. But because he grew up, kind of with a family of blue-collar Republicans. And so I think here his distrust for the government is really manifesting because the shop isn't, is like kind of a purely corrupt organization.
I mean, they're like so evil. Yeah. I mean, they really are.
Also inept in some ways.
They're like lame. Like Cap is this like silly old man. And
but also look up MK Ultra because that stuff's real. Like,
MK Ultra,
Project MK Ultra. Literally dosing people with LSD in their drinks.
Yeah.
Was this? When was the whole Contra scandal? Also, with like the CIA essentially importing cocaine from South America. Like, because that was that not unveiled till later? Because I'm wondering if that maybe
did that get unveiled with the release of the video game?
Yeah, that's what I always thought too. No, but it's and I guess that's my issue with it because all I take away from this book, and we all have, I don't know about Mel, but I think we all pretty like leftist leaning politics, right? And I mean, Mel did say she'd vote for Trump. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
Love him. Love the big guy.
Yeah. No, but like,
I really don't.
Yeah. Hey. Yeah, Phil Caffrey.
We brought him up.
Yeah. I know. Yeah, we always joke that we're going to go a whole episode not talking about it. But I mean, we all have pretty similar politics. But at the same time, all I glean from this book when it comes to the government is that, the government does shady shit and that they manipulate people and there's reason to be paranoid of them when it comes to things like superpowers or whatever else.
Mm-hmm.
But it just doesn't, to me, that's just not that complex of a theme, really,
right.
And I guess that's my issue. And once again, we have to remember this book was written at this point, almost 40 years ago. And maybe it was kind of the first of it. I don't want to say it's the first of its kind, though. It definitely wasn't the first, political thriller.
That was my thing, too, Dan, was, I was trying to look at it through the lens. We've had so many stories and movies about running away from government agencies, especially with all the comic book movies that have come out lately. Mm-hmm. That I'm just I was just bored with this story because it's we've seen it done and probably done better, but at the time, I don't know maybe this was something that people were really digging and interested in.
Yeah.
I mean, it was new for King, I guess. I mean, he had delved into the government being corrupt before in The Stand and and even The Dead Zone to an extent. But I think all those books, because they're not necessarily about government. I mean, The Stand, I think you could argue, as we've said, is somewhat about institutions failing and once civilization gets too complex, it just kind of buckling under its own weight. But I wouldn't say The Stand is there's way more going on in The Stand than just the government doesn't work or something. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I feel like that's what we get from Firestarter, that it's using this thing of government manipulation to say something about I shouldn't say government, I guess. What would the shop be?
No, I think it is part of the government.
I
think it's important to consider the contrast that he puts forward in hilarious ways, I think, which is the independent, folksy people that populate this novel that stand in opposition.
Like the farmer.
To the shop. Which we'll get into, but I just think it's so funny. The scene where they rob the mailman is so funny.
Well, and the mailman says he's like, I gotta find that.
Wait, because it is something you can't do that in this country.
He equates it to sexually assaulting his wife.
Yes,
taking the U.S. mail from him.
So laughable.
But it's weird because, and also Irv Manders is you don't have a warrant, you can't come on my property. So it's anti-government, but citing laws of the government anyway.
Cobham was 56. He had been with the Postal Service for 35 years, and he was badly scared. At last, he succeeded in communicating his fright to Robert Everett as well, and Everett never said a word, not even to his wife, about the day he had been robbed on the Teller Road between Bradford and Williams, but he never forgot it, and he never completely lost that sense of anger and shame and delusion.
Yeah. And that
or disillusion.
I don't know, we talked a lot with The Dead Zone about how relevant that book feels in the wake of Donald Trump and Greg Stillson being similar to him, and that made the book such a good read. But with this, even though we're in this time of extreme government distrust, it's weird. Firestarter didn't make me think of any of that. It just felt so just one dimensional and comic booky that
it just does, and it spends a lot of time developing these shop guys in the beginning, and
I know that bums me out.
It's
we'll
weird.
Get there
We'll get into that. Yeah.
Well, I'll say this: like, I think on a more personal level, the way I was reading the book and sort of the first third of it was, I was thinking about how old Joe and Owen were probably when King wrote this book, and it turns out that Joe was. Like, if King started writing it in 77, 78, Joe was like 4 or 5.
Yeah.
And
right.
Owen was born in 77. And this book, early on, is really a lot about the difficulties of raising a child and the unpredictability of children. And so, like, there's a line on page 55 of the Signet edition where he says, "You never knew when the little kid was going to get mad." And then he talks about... about the teddy bear situation where she set her teddy bear on fire. And he says, hating himself, yet knowing in some primitive way that it had to be done, the line had to be drawn, the lesson learned. He jammed the bear almost into Charlie's screaming, frightened, tear-streaked face. "Oh, you dirty bastard," he had thought desperately. "Why don't you just go out to the kitchen and get a paring knife and cut a line up each cheek? Mark her that way." And his mind had seized on that. Scars. Yes, that's what he had to do. Scar his child, burn a scar on her soul. And I mean, those were probably things that he was struggling with just in disciplining his children, and the fear that you're raising your children wrong and that you're not being able to control what's special about them.
Yeah, and that is much more interesting to me than all these chase scene elements. I mean, it's like what Mel said, this idea of, okay, what happens when you have this power is scary enough, what happens when you put it into this being who is so unpredictable and not really in control of her emotions. But I think we get that with Carrie also, like and in a much more like substantial way. Like Carrie,
right.
Like Carrie, by the end, it's like it's the exact same theme. It's this whole thing of I'm getting picked on and kind of suppressing these things that I know are bad, but when the world pushes you too much, it kind of explodes.
When Carrie is definitely about sexual awakening.
Yes.
People have argued that Firestarter is about sexual awakening, but I think you even said, like, there's not a lot that I see that's super sexual in here.
Yeah, there's like a couple of strange references to, like, maybe Rainbird notices the jumper she's wearing, but you could take it that way maybe, but like I don't really pick up on any of that.
Rainbird in her is the one part where I think maybe you can get in there and
and King himself, like, I think the argument about it being about a sexual awakening, which is not an argument that I ever thought of, but people say that they're linguistically joined at the hip, sex and fire, the idea of burning passion, the fires of desire, smoking hot.
Boy.
What are you reading?
Smoking hot, is that in there?
Yeah. And they were, and this is from, I believe, the Tor article that was, because like both Tor and The Guardian did sort of thorough rereads of Stephen King over the last decade.
Oh yeah, I read the Guardian ones; they were good.
Yeah. And in the Tor one, it's very focused on this book being about sexual awakening, and he says it's the dirtiest of Freudian jokes that Charlie is told that her ability to start fires is the bad thing, and she mustn't do or she'll hurt her parents. Things go from subtext to plain old text when she's taken in hand by John Rainbird, who yearns to, quote-unquote, penetrate her defenses, crack her like a safe, and to kill her while looking deeply in her eyes. And King himself said it's a sexual relationship about Rainbird and Charlie, which I thought that like confirmed, because remember we were like texting about this. I'm like, does he want to, like, is this sexual or not with him? And then he said, I only wanted to touch on it lightly, but it makes the whole conflict more monstrous.
I mean, I understand what he's saying, and I totally get why The Guardian picked up on that. But it's like, I don't know, man. King, I don't want to say King is not a subtle writer, because he has shown some like great nuance that we've talked about in these books. But when it comes to symbolism, I don't know. I just don't know if he's that allegorical. Do you know what I mean? Like, I feel like for a guy who we have an entire section called Pound Cake because he writes about sex so much, there would be more of. It would be more than just metaphorical if he talked about that. Like, I feel like he would have no bones about making Rainbird a full on, child molester or whatever. Yeah. And granted, like, yeah, the way he talks about Charlie is super creepy, like, comparing her to a safe and penetrating her defenses and all that. But I guess that's my thing. Like, he goes that far. I feel like, I don't know. I just feel like maybe this book does not operate on that high of a level. Like, and maybe in retrospect, King is going, oh yeah, maybe that's what I was getting at there. But do you guys think that when he sat down to write this, he said to himself by the end, okay, I'm making this a metaphor for sexual awakening. That's what
8.
This is. Yeah,
He's 8 years old.
Yeah,
and he had already done Carrie. Like, that feels like such a conscious decision to step away from puberty. Like,
to make Rainbird monstrous, maybe on his end, I can see because there's dialogue in there where I was like, Yeah, I'm kind of picking up that maybe he does feel like that, but he never acts on it, and we never see any of that. I mean, even up until the end, so it's like that's a little strange. But I did not pick up on any of the sexual.
The age thing's a great point. It's like, well, why not make her like 15 or 13 even?
Yeah, exactly.
8 is like
because I feel like to do that it would be like Carrie, and that's the problem with this is like. It was like, oh, well, maybe I'll write Carrie, but this time it'll be Fire, and this time she'll actually have a good relationship with her parent.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And so, like, in terms of, like, raising children and that aspect, I think that's honestly the most interesting stuff is when Charlie and Andy are together.
Yeah.
And they're, like, dealing with this and going through all this stuff. So when you get to the shop, I mean, I'm going further into it, but when you get to the shop and they're separated for, like, the rest of the book, it's just boring.
Right. I think the book really suffers from sort of the last third. Once they're separated, and I think he spends a great deal of time on Rainbird and Charlie in ways that weren't necessarily very satisfying.
Well, and it gets away from the one thing we all agreed on a little bit, like, oh, this is sort of interesting. It would have been better if he went further in this direction. It gets away from the complexities of parenthood by that point because they're not together anymore.
Yeah, because when I was reading it, like it was ringing loud and clear to me early on. I'm like, oh, this is about raising children and trying to raise them right when you know that you're dealing with very sensitive material. But then it really kind of got away from that.
Yeah. Well, partly because of, I think, Andy just becomes this toothless fat.
He loves talking about how fat Andy got.
I know.
He does bring it up.
He becomes such a schlub.
I kind of like that just for a character point because it was like, I get to sit and watch him watching TV and sitting in like a puddle of ginger. I'm like, man, he really went to great lengths to schlub him up.
Do we have any other thoughts on the hook or the themes?
Nah.
Nope.
Nah.
I was speaking about we're good.
Well, then why don't we move on to let's talk about the structure and format.
Look at me. Look at me, teacher.
It really does hop around a lot. We begin following Andy very closely with Charlie. Then we do flashbacks that are from Andy's perspective. But then later in the book, whole chapters are devoted to Rainbird and Cap and things like that. I think that works to a degree, but it also just doesn't. I don't feel like I'm in very good hands. Like with The Stand, I always kind of knew what the structure was and the format and that we were going to be leaping between characters. But we spend so much time in the minds of minor characters, supporting characters, other villains and stuff like that, and then flashbacks, and that it just kind of does feel a little bit all over the place.
Well, also, too, with the flashbacks, it's weird that they keep doing these flashbacks to kind of the first half of the book to show what happened to Andy and Vicky as far as the testing goes, and then what it was like raising Charlie, and it goes back and forth between that and the present action. But then that device just stops at a certain point. It's like they catch
once
us up.
We get all the info.
Yeah, it's like they catch us up to speed, and that just stops. And I feel like that's such a, at least in the first half, such a deliberate choice. You should either carry that through to the end or have a very specific reason for not doing that. Like, it kind of goes back and forth kind of all the way up until the end of the book. Mm-hmm. And with this, it just felt like this tool to get exposition out of the way, like you said. And then he just abandons it. And then we go into all these other characters who, I
feel like he's really trying to show us how some inconsequential people might be directly affected by Charlie to kind of maximize her impact. But I agree that it's not totally successful. Yeah. And I keep thinking, why are we back with OJ?
Yeah, OJ. We've been talking about OJ, like, so not that OJ, but no, you even said before we started the book, you're like, I remember as a kid this character OJ, and he's like in it and then just not in it at all. And maybe that does tie back to that government thing we were talking about, like touching everyone's lives. But
when we get to the zeros and villains, I have a lot of thoughts about like the shop employees. It's like I remember. I guess I just don't feel in this book that we're in like good, confident hands. And I wonder, in the idea of a 3-act structure, would it have been more interesting if the book was told in a linear fashion and we opened with Vicky and Andy at the LSD testing.
Oh, I think I would have liked that.
Yeah,
Me
if
too.
it just moved and we watched their courtship, we watched them have Charlie, and then we touched on them raising her, and then sort of leading to this point, I think almost would have been maybe a little bit more effective.
Definitely underscore Vicky's death a lot more.
Yeah.
And build her more as a character. I feel like I have no
Yeah.
concept of her as a character.
Yeah, I think that would have been the way to go because, again, like so much of it is like from like Andy. I feel like Andy is like the main character, but he was trying really hard to make Charlie the main character,
Yeah.
and it just. And it's not that it's not that Charlie's not an interesting character, but it just doesn't work because even the whole like Ricochet thing, that is like far more interesting
I love that.
and
I do
scary
too,
and complex than anything that's going on with Charlie. So it's like against his will, he just keeps making Andy really interesting, even when he's a schlub. And then to have done it in linear and maybe have had Andy the main character and seen him with Vicky and that loss and all that, I think it would have served the book a lot better.
Well, and it would have been interesting if King was really going to carry this childhood theme, or not childhood, this parenthood theme through to the very end. If he had done it linearly, like say we're from Andy's point of view the entire time, and then obviously spoiler alert, listeners, he dies. But then when he dies, we go into Charlie's point of view as she tries to be on her own, and then goes to Rolling Stone at the end and all that. That has this really nice ribbon on it with like the parent took the child all the way to this point. And now he's gone, and we're left completely with her. But but we lose that.
It's hard to make an interesting character out of an 8-year-old girl. I think.
But like, seriously, at the end of this book, this book feels to me like at the end, I was like, oh, this is where it starts.
Yeah.
And then all the flat, you could follow Charlie from this point on. She's a little older, not much older, but you could follow her from that point on. And then you can have flashbacks throughout covering all of this stuff. And that would be interesting because you'd cut out all the fat. And it would just be the meaty good stuff in here. Yeah. And then maybe she could also develop some of Andy's push as she gets older or she hits puberty or whatever. I don't know. Like, I feel like, you write 15 pages and then you're like, oh, this is where the play starts, and then you cut all that. And I just feel like that's where I was. I wanted to read more when we got there because I was like, oh, now what are we going to do? She's on her own.
Yeah.
Also, too, it's at least the first half of the book, it's more or less like a road movie, or it's trying to be anyway. And so it's like them just on the run. They're on the lam. And when we keep just going to these flashbacks that last a long time, they're not just like he's they'll do they'll interrupt the momentum of all this for these flashback scenes. And like you said, I think that moment where he comes home and he finds Vicky dead, which is I actually think a very creepy scene. Yeah, and he has to use his powers against those shop agents. If we're doing it linearly, that's the moment where it becomes the road movie, them fleeing. We see it in Logan, we see it in Children of Men. Like anytime there's this idea of having to get someone to safety that's being chased by opposite forces, it's always great when you have that moment where you can launch into that. But in this weird way, because we've already been in that, this whole thing of like Andy taking Charlie on the run feels weird because we already knew that was the thing. And I think starting it in order would have really benefited this book quite a bit. And maybe he felt like because of his other books leading up to this, like you said, The Stand and whatever else that do that so successfully, maybe he felt like he had to do something different with the form, and it just didn't work.
Well, I guess that raises the question: is this book the right length, or is it too short, or is it too long? What do you guys think?
I will say that I always enjoy a book that seems to, or a story that seems to contain its own sequel just by merit of splitting On the Run and then Prison Escape narrative. I like that a lot. I think I agree that it kind of loses steam with the Prison Escape, where a lot of stuff you think is going to happen doesn't happen. I think it might be a little too long.
Yeah, I think a little too long. I think if it was restructured, just you could put copy and paste stuff, I think. And then you could probably just trim a little of the fat, and it would have just feel like more of a snowball kind of thing. But you could probably cut like easily 50, maybe 100 pages out of it.
And I think starting with, I don't know, at the time, the idea of doing scientific experiments, like volunteering to be in scientific experiments, was still probably a relatively new thing, like to make some extra cash. And I feel like that's like such a great, creepy way to start, because I think the idea that just participating and volunteering in this, routine science experiment, just for some extra cash, and then sort of the fact that it could go very dark and it could go very badly,
exactly,
is like actually like a really interesting way to kick off like the book, because there's like a real inherent fear in just that.
Yeah, and because there's no, by the time we get to that stuff, we already know it has this like dark tone to it. But yeah, I think because we know where Andy ends up, but it would be really cool if it just opens with these two college kids like, I'm just trying to make some money doing this, and then it just gets crazy all of a sudden. But there's like, he's like doubling down on the dread in this book from page 1, and I think that kind of makes it tonally feel a little flat the entire time.
It's like he sat down and had the idea, the general idea, and was like, I'm going to start right here, this like really cool action sequence where they're like running from the shop. And then he was like, but I've got to add all this stuff. But he just didn't go back and like reorder it. He just started with the same scene he started with at the typewriter.
Yeah.
And another thing too, we didn't really mention, but just like the whole fear of like Charlie being like this like nuclear bomb in the future.
Yeah.
And just the whole fear of like one person being able to, blow everybody to hell or literally crack the earth. I think at some point they say
that's a really striking.
And and that whole theme of just like the fear of, again, something happening, like a bomb or something happening on that level.
And that's why like when all the descriptions describe what the shop's intentions are to be insane. I mean, they might be talking about Rainbird, but they're kind of saying it's like the shop. But I think that there's actually the shop. It's staffed by a group of heartless villains, but it's like, but you think that you would want to get a grip on somebody who may have the potential to like a human nuclear bomb. Like, I mean, I know that a little girl shouldn't have to live in captivity, but at the same time, it's a little scary to think that that is walking around there. And I don't think that
like I'd lock her up.
Yeah, I don't think it's insane to say
Randall's like a closet fascist.
Randall's actually sitting in.
Who
Cap's
are the real
chair
heroes
now.
of this story?
He's leaning back in Cap's chair as we speak.
I just think it's I don't.
Newsboy Cap.
I just don't think it's insane that the government would want to understand.
But they don't even believe that she has that power initially.
Right, that's true.
Well, that's part of it. They're doing these tests on her. It's like, we know she has the power. We've seen it.
I know, and that was like really like in the
Jesus.
movie too. I was like kind of laughing like at their reaction to it, because I'm like it almost feels like we're supposed to be reacting in a similar way, but we've already seen her do it.
She torched like an entire farm's worth of shop agents earlier on. Like, we know it. I mean, and I guess like, we're gonna see if she can nuclear potential. But I'm like, well, of course she will one day. Like, you guys saw what she did as an 8-year-old girl. It's only going to get worse.
They're constantly surveilling the entire family, so they know all of this stuff has happened.
Yeah.
So why they're so surprised is beyond me when they start doing the tests
like
later.
I
think their surveillance isn't complete, right? Like they don't know about.
There's times where they disappear.
That's true.
They're really bad at it.
They're not very good agents. I can't wait to talk about them.
They are. There is a little, like you guys said before, like a little, for as horrible as they are as people, there's like kind of an ineptness to them. Even Rainbird to an extent at a certain point, like, because that final showdown in the horse stable is like, we'll get to it when we talk about Cap.
So cool.
So anticlimactic when it
really
comes to
is.
Cap, the ricochet of Cap. Like, anyway, I want to wait because I have lots of thoughts on that.
Well, we clearly have a lot of thoughts on characters, so I think it's probably time for us to move into a little segment we like to call Zeros and Villains.
I'm gonna have to kill this fucking clown. Welcome to the Losers Club, asshole!
What characters stand out? What characters really work on the page? What characters really don't on the page? What are your thoughts, Dan? Who stands out to you?
I mean, I know it's so cliche to say it. Probably Andy, I guess. I mean, he's not my favorite King character, but I do, not being a father myself, so maybe I'm not qualified to talk about this, but it does seem like King, it's the thing that King seems the most like educated in writing about in this book. Like, I think it seems like he does nail the pressure of being a parent. And I will say something I do like about this book from the beginning is that he really captures just the exhaustion of Andy. I mean, just the headaches he gets and the being in airports and taxi cabs and all this. Like, I'd imagine it's exhausting to be a parent anyway, and especially if it's with superpowers. So, yeah. That
I agree with. I actually had a note that said he's using pain as a form of identification, like audience identification. And I think that that's a really interesting way to build character and build, the ability for the audience to empathize and feel for Andy is by, I think that's maybe one of the benefits of opening with the cab scene and having him push so hard, and the idea that his power is actually killing him slowly.
Exactly.
And him dealing with that massive, we all know what like, you know, a migraine or like migraine level headaches are like. So to watch him suffer through that, but also to keep trying to ferry his daughter to safety, and the urgency and the sense of, you know, we got to get to the airport, we got to get out of here. That was a way for me, I think, to really almost immediately identify with Andy.
Totally. And I think too, I think I've even mentioned this in the Dead Zone episode with the end of where Johnny ends up going in the Dead Zone. I'm kind of a sucker for characters that had this like singular mission in mind, and they know it's like harming them. I mean, I love War for the Planet of the Apes for the same reason. I mean, I love watching characters that are just dogged and getting to this end point that they know, like getting their people to safety or whoever, and seeing how it takes its toll on them. And as much as I am trashing how many similes he uses, because there's so fucking many in the beginning, it's insane. But the headache ones are the most effective. Like he talks
slowly filling lead balloon.
Exactly, yeah. Like he talks about it, and he talks about transforming from like a stampede of horses into this like black wave, and all of that I thought was very accurate. So I think Andy, like I said, he's no Johnny Smith, he's no Larry Underwood, he's no Carrie White, but I think he's a solid King protagonist, and you know, if he's probably the character I am the most drawn to. I don't like dislike Charlie necessarily, but I just think King is better at writing a stressed out father than he is an 8-year-old girl, which makes sense because he was probably a stressed out father at that point in his life. So yeah, but that's mine. Yeah.
What other characters do we like?
I don't know about like, but Rainbird, John Rainbird. I kept coming back to him because I just felt like he was probably the most interesting character to me in the book. I say that so hesitantly. But I mean, because I feel like it's to an extent, it's not. I thought I was like, oh, this is like the cool assassin that we're gonna go back to every once in a while. That's just quiet, doesn't say anything.
You wild card,
kind of like Javier Bardem in No Country for Old Men. You know, I was just picturing like this like menacing, like doesn't need to say anything, but you know, like this guy means business. But then they really try to develop his character,
which is the problem, right?
Yeah, and like I just didn't dig it. Yeah.
And you're also. My issue with Rainbird, and I guess maybe it's kind of intriguing, but it's exactly what you said. It becomes hard when we're supposed to spend so much time with him, is that you're spending a time with a guy whose sole motivation is he's fascinated by what it's going to be like to kill a little girl that he befriends. And that to me is just, I'm not saying that can't be an interesting motivation, because I mean, there's certainly a place for darkness in this, but when we're spending so much time with him, you're just like getting sick of him after a while, and you don't like him.
I think his air of mystery is totally undone by spending so much time with him, because he even contradicts himself. Like I think when we first meet him, they describe him as, you know, referencing the happy hunting grounds and never knowing if you're going to take him seriously. Does he really believe this stuff? And later, when he's about to shoot Charlie, he prays to the Great Spirit that his shot will be true. First of all, he's racist as hell. He's like a racist caricature of like a giant, intimidating Indian, Native American, copper-skinned angel of death.
Well, and that's kind of the thing, because like King at first paints it as like, oh, everyone else judges him this one way because he's Native American, but he's actually going to buck that tradition, and he's like wilier and smarter than them. But then he does kind of make him the cliche
he's super
at the
quiet.
end.
He's like, but it's also so weird when this is such an anti-government book that you make your main villain a Native American. Like, that's so strange.
They say he's like half Cherokee. I'm like, wait, were you backpedaling now? Like, wait. Like, what are you trying to do? What is your end game here?
I think I'm with Mac. I'm much more interested in him when we don't know a lot about him early on, you know, and he is because he is for a little while this vehicle of like kind of a fuck you to the government, because he's trying to undermine the shop and all this. And like, okay, maybe I kept thinking, I'm like, oh, maybe it'll become interesting if like he actually starts to admire Charlie so much that he becomes her true ally.
I thought that too.
And I'm like, that would have been cool. But at the end, it's like this guy just wants to kill a little girl. Like that's all he exists for at this point.
It is sort of fascinating how often white authors like really fetishize and Native American characters and play with the concept of mystery that's inherent to their culture and like ritual and all that, because just look at like Fargo season 2. I think it's handled really well, but a lot of the mystique of the second season of Fargo is built around a Native American character and his own sense of mysticism, and then that happens in even in Twin Peaks, which is on right now, is being built a lot on this character Hawk and his Native American background, and then we see it here as well. I almost feel like it just, I don't know, it's like I feel like King I always feel like he has good intentions, but he always slips a little. He always just feels a little bit clunky and clumsy when he's writing about race in ways that are like really,
because you also get the sense that he's obsessed with it. Like he just totally wants to do it and talk about it, and like
he can't. Rainbow just doesn't. He can't just like happen to be Native American.
Right? Exactly. No.
Yeah. And full disclosure, and I don't feel like I need to say this because I'm kind of guilty of this recently too. Like I actually wrote this short play that was going to go up at this short play festival, and I was like working on it, and it had to be historical characters, and the director wanted something about Sacagawea. So like I wrote this like kind of like last days thing of her, and I didn't hate it as a script, but it did end with this kind of like ritualistic snake dance thing, and we actually had some like Native American people read it, and they had reservations about like, this is a thing, but there's also not enough, there's more complexity to it than this, and like we do have some issues about a white guy like essentially portraying this, and we ultimately decided not to put it up.
Good for you. I can guarantee Stephen King wasn't like, I better have a half Cherokee man look this over.
Well, they're probably knocking on Stephen King's bathroom like, hey, like, Stephen, are you okay in there? He's just like,
leave me alone. I'm writing about Rainbird.
Well, let's just look at who ended up playing John Rainbird in the movie.
And so we ended up pulling it, and like you said, it was all. And at first, I felt really bad, but I was like, okay, well, at least we like considered it. And at the end of the day, I was like, I haven't done my homework on this. Let's not do it. And it was
that's
fine.
The best thing you can do.
And with and like you said, it's funny too, because I know there's a couple of commenters who are like, oh, you guys just trash King and you're acting like you're so above him. I'm like, no, the whole point is just that in 2017, these are things that just get considered a lot more, I think, than they did back in 1979 or 1980. And like, and we always talk about King's heart was always in the right place with this stuff, but it's just without doing a ton of research and really like, I don't know, kind of considering your own status and all this, it is hard to write about that stuff.
It's a different time, but I also still do feel like his obsession with, especially, it never comes back, but in the beginning he uses his like runaway slave internal monologue with Andy. One time. It never even comes back. And
wait, what is it?
I wrote that down.
Oh man, I forgot about this. Wait, go over this.
I had it in Pound Cake, I think, but I'm gonna.
He just loves that so much. You can feel like he couldn't keep it out. He just
wait. So he makes like he compares Andy to like a runaway slave.
There's a bit of italics of internal monologue from Andy being like, it's like really near the beginning.
He also uses the phrase Orientals, which is like, what are you doing?
Oh yeah, the push works really well on smart people, but also Orientals. So what does that say about quote Orientals?
Yeah. Oh man, I must have missed that.
Oh yeah, here we go. This is on page 2 of my edition. And it's just his internal monologue going, keep walking, show bus, yes, a bus, where?
Holy shit, how did I,
and there's another line too, I have it in my Pound Cake, well, we'll get to that later.
Wait, really? Show bus? Oh boy,
it's weird.
He just likes to do it.
Steven.
Okay,
I don't know how, because we always talk about like he uses the phrase Negroid lips a few times in
a lot of the early ones.
In his early books, and so we always talk about like, oh, that's so, and maybe I don't think it's like a Lovecraft thing.
Well, like in Trucks too, like the way like everybody talks. Like just like normal people, and then there's a black character, and he's suddenly speaking in like really intense, like quote unquote ebonics.
There's some more of that in Roadwork. I'm reading that now.
Oh, really?
I mean, it's not to the extent that it is in this, but and again, like if we looked at it from the standpoint of reading it back then, I mean, it was a different time. No excuse, but at the same time, people weren't picking apart these novels back then about, and if they were, they weren't getting the amount of social attention that it would now because of social media and whatnot. But
I can't believe I missed this. Sorry, I just want to read it.
I mean, you would probably know better than me. Does he ever talk about this? Like, nowadays,
I'm sure he has in interviews. I know I haven't seen anything about the race issue specifically, but I do know in it, we all know about the infamous like child orgy scene. They in a message because the Stephen King message board is a big thing on his website, and he'll do like online interviews with them. He did talk about how like in retrospect on that he probably wouldn't have written it. And he talked about what he was trying to do with like, I need to show how strong the love between these kids was because that's what defeats this beast. He says that's what he was trying to do with it. He recognizes that that's the scene itself is so shocking that it like overshadows that. And he said like it was a different time. I would not have written that in retrospect. So I don't know if he's talked about race, but I feel like he probably.
I'm in the minority of like. I mean, that scene is icky, but I was like. Yeah, it makes sense. Yeah. when I read it the first time, like we should, as a kid.
When we get to it, we should make her be like, all right, what's worse, this or his race talk? Like put it around this one. But yeah, so we should look that up. I don't know if he's had interviews specifically about that, but knowing he seems pretty in tune with like changing the times. I feel like he probably would not write that. I mean,
I'd be curious.
I mean, I'm trying to think of his recent books. We have talked about Mr. Mercedes, the Jerome character.
But it's self-aware in that book.
There's this, have you read Mr. Mercedes?
Yeah.
So there's that character, Jerome, right?
Jerome, yeah.
And he has that like alter ego, like Tyrone Feelgood or something, where he like essentially goes into like this black caricature.
Right.
And like everyone else is like, Jerome, come on, that's not right.
But no,
it's not right.
Bill does it too. Hodges does it too. It's like a bit that they have together.
So that's like a little.
But then as Jerome gets older, like he's like, we're not doing that anymore.
Yeah,
I think it's a Tarantino fault that he has.
No, exactly.
I mean, I think it's like it's hard to shake off the world you grew up in. You know, and I think that. It is just a reflection of the times in a lot of ways, but I think it really came from sort of a weird fetishization and like obsession with. I think he just thought, hey, it would be cool to have like a hulking Native American killer, like maybe you watch One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, which came out in the 70s.
And honestly, that's what came to mind when I was reading it.
He probably saw that Native American.
And you have to think like King was raised on like on 1950s serials and genre films and all this stuff, and in those like old adventure books. I mean. And I love some of that stuff too. I really do, but they're not really known for their like nuanced portrayals of indigenous people or honestly anyone who's not white. I mean, you look at like the Asian villains they had back then, even like someone like Mandarin and Iron Man. The types of fiction King and most other writers from his period were weaned on. They're not, once again, they're just not known for having these like very complex portrayals. Like they do have these archetypes adhered to.
Well. I think let's pivot. I'd love to just talk about. We're still in the shop, but like, let's talk about the other agents that we meet. I guess I remember when I was a kid. I always liked supporting villains. I always liked the guys who were like the third or fourth villains,
like Lloyd Henry,
or the Trash Can Man, people like that. And so I remember when we meet the three shop agents early, and it's like, but I remember being also confused because isn't there a guy named Norville and a guy named Orville?
Norville
Bates. Like what? Well, like Mel, I don't know if you heard our stand episode, but we were very tickled by the fact that there was characters named Barry Drogan, Harry Dorgan, and Heck Drogan.
Yeah. No, wait, Whitney Horgan, Heck Drogan, and Barry Dorgan.
Yeah, and we were like obsessed. And we're like, what is he doing? And so I had a moment similar here where I was like, why is there a Norville and an Orville in the same car?
It's Orville Jameson's OJ.
I know.
Orville Jameson.
I know. I'm just saying his name is Orville.
No, and
the other guy is
Norville.
It's like so weird, and I don't remember Norville and whoever the third agent
Joe Mayo or John Mayo or something.
I went to school with Joey Mayo.
I just love it because like it's like two guys with Orville and Norville, and then like John Mayo.
And I love that
whitest name.
And I love that our first introduction to these characters is just the most bumbling, terrible agents.
Yeah.
Like they're not good shadows.
Well,
like
I thought all
that.
of them were going to be built up, like especially Norval. Like Norval is posited as the leader of those three, and then we never see him again.
Yeah, and don't forget the fourth character, the Windsucker.
The Windsucker.
Oh, that gun! I know that's his trait. Like, this is.
Are we supposed to think it's cool? Like, I don't know what I'm supposed to think of it.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
Yeah,
he was
really?
going for that.
But it's a literal Chekhov's gun thing. Like, it never gets used, does it? Maybe at the farm, but
well, that's kind of the problem with OJ. I mean, in the beginning they sort of paint him as because he grew up in a small town like the one. Wait, did he actually grow up in that town they end up in, the upstate New York town?
I think nearby, maybe.
I think he grew up nearby. Oh yeah,
he doesn't want to be there because it's too close.
And they
they give him some interesting
because he's kind of like a nerd, right? He was like a
Yeah.
nerd in high school who now has this big shot job with this agency, and so you understand that maybe that's why he's a little cruel or whatever. And they talk about his hair being slicked back and like him liking chess a lot. There's some interesting things there.
It sets him up to be like this toxic masculinity
Yeah.
guy to do something really awful.
But then he doesn't.
And he does it, but we keep going back to him. And I'm like, okay, here he's gonna do something.
He's a total coward, and then he disappears for 90% of the book, and then hey, he comes back, and you're like, OJ, what? Like what? Like I can't believe he came back. It was just like so surprising.
And he doesn't do anything.
Well, he just runs for it.
Well, you think that maybe he'll be he'll play some huge role in the final Charlie's escape from the shop, or that he'll be like the guy to actually take Andy down or something. But yeah, he does.
That's what I was thinking.
And people just comes back and then I'm getting out of here.
Yeah.
And he like runs away.
He runs away from the farm, and when she starts destroying the shop, he's just like, "Well, I'm not getting involved."
Yeah, we just flash back for him to say like, "Uh-oh."
Yeah,
yeah.
It's like why?
So
like
weird.
why would you build? Because like that character has a lot of potential, I think, to be like an interesting villain, like a secondary villain who serves some kind of important role. And then all he really functions as in the latter half of the book is sort of a perspective within the shop that isn't any of our main characters, which is interesting, but they build the character up to have more of an impact.
Yeah.
Yeah,
and
when it doesn't, to that waitress.
Yeah, I know.
Oh, he's such a jerk to that waitress. Yeah.
And he talks about like all women are sluts. Like he's like that's how he was raised. And
then
like,
it's
like we forgot about that. And then, like page 387 of the Viking edition, he just says it says I just wrote finally we hear from OJ again. He says because he remembers the farm and like what happened, and then he like gooses this woman to get her up over this thing, and you're like, why do we need this?
He tells her to get out of here. Like he's like, oh, if you're smart, you'll get out of here too.
He's like, that idiot. She broke her arm when she landed. Like,
we
just gotta get some.
Okay,
but that's a huge problem with the climax of this book in general, and it's with all the characters. I mean, it's even with the main villains because we already said Rainbird essentially. I mean, he's waiting in the hayloft, but all he does really is shoot Andy, and then Charlie kills him at the end. That's about it. For Big Rainbird, they try and build up like he's such this monstrous figure, but even everything we see him do isn't that shocking. And then Caff with the ricochet thing, which, like I said, I actually like this element of the ricochet, which I definitely want to talk about in the cemetery. This idea of Andy can like try and push someone, but they get caught in this one loop idea that keeps
like random associations.
Yeah, and it makes
really scary.
It makes the one dude put his hand in the garbage disposal, which is super scary. But with Cap, he does this snake thing. And he keeps saying, "Oh yeah, with golf, there's snakes in the course." I'm like, "Oh man, Cap's gonna do something really weird, or like do something crazy with snakes at the end that's gonna like be a huge part of this book." And all he ends up doing is attacking a garden hose with a rake. Like that's what he does, and that's the payoff for this shit. And then he gets killed, and I'm like, "What was that for?" Like, I think that's just a huge problem with the climax of this book is King sets up these characters to have all these crazy things happen to them, and then it just none of it.
But that's the problem is that he sets up all these characters in the first like 2 chapters, and then they disappear for most of the book. All these shop agents, and like then you have Cap and Dr. Wainless, who Justin said that Dr. Wainless reminded him of Dr. Frankenstein from Day of the Dead.
He did
like
a little
that,
bit,
goofy, like But I feel like the most maniacal we see Rainbird is when he kills Wainless. I think. But the characters here are few and far between in terms of being interesting.
How do you guys feel about Charlie? Just 'cause I feel like we should. I mean, she is the Firestarter.
She's never a brat, not once.
Yeah,
she's the most
true.
well-behaved 8-year-old in the entire world, even though she's going through what no 8-year-old could handle.
Well, it's funny because like I even wrote here like on again page 366 of the Viking edition. Charlie's really kind to Mike at the end when she thinks, oh, I might not see Mike ever again because I'm going to escape and get out of here. And she says, like, thanks. And he's, like, taken aback. Yeah. And it's like, even in this moment, this girl's last moments, she's still really, like, put together. And I feel like there are moments where she's stubborn, but I feel like she's got a pretty good handle on the Firestarter stuff. Yeah. And maybe that's because of the experience with her mother, but... Yeah, it's really weird.
I do like when they go into her head a little bit about the ability to, the pyrokinesis ability. How they do touch on how she likes it, and that it's the same thing when you're a little kid. It feels good to throw a tantrum sometimes, or it feel like I remember this kid was picking on me one time on the playground when I was like 8, and he was throwing bottle caps at me every time he came down the slide.
I knew a kid who did. He was
so annoying. Yeah, and this kid was like old. Like the kid who's like a year older, but hangs out with like younger kids. So and it's really just so you can bully them because no one else will hang out with them. And this kid kept doing that to me. I remember like being in the sand and like crying, and then this is horrible. I remember I saw like a sharp rock like on the ground. I remember I started laughing like, oh, like fuck this kid. I'm gonna like do this, and I picked up. I was like, hey, Tony, and I threw it at him, and it hit him in the head, and I was like, yes, but then he started crying and ran, and then I was like, no, don't tell. And so I think King does capture that with Charlie a little bit, like how even if you're a well-behaved kid, I mean, when people are fucking with you, like it does, and if you have this power or whatever, it does feel good to kind of take advantage of that. But I wish we had more of that because we don't really get into the moral complexity of her ability. I mean, the final resolution that Andy arrives at with her is like, "Hey, use this power if you need to. If you need to kill people, just
fuck them up.
Yeah, just do it." And that's cool, I guess, eventually. But like, we don't really get. I don't think we get enough of her. Like, I don't dislike her as a character, but we don't really get enough of her weighing the pros and cons of her ability.
She's so young; it has to be her whole personality. I remember you guys talking about how like weirdly precocious Danny is in The Shining, and I miss that here because I want her to be doing what you're saying.
Right, and then like even towards the end when she has to make this decision about Rainbird, like when Andy tells her that Rainbird is actually this guy is not like a good guy. And I'm like, wow, they really built up this relationship. This is going to be really difficult for her. And she just like turns on him and believes her dad and there's no, like, I wanted her to almost protect Rainbird, but she really doesn't. And it's just like, why did we spend all this time doing this if she's going to just
time building that relationship,
just take her dad's word for it and then like hate. I don't know. I just didn't buy that. I was like, there was a more interesting story to tell there.
That's a place where there could be huge conflict, especially in that final showdown. Like, yeah, do my dad told me not to kill. Do I kill John Rainbird and like sort of like the two father figures, I guess, like fighting over her.
Well, I think it's kind of like what Mel just said. She's too young to really grasp the moral complexities of it, and I almost think that it's a problem that she's only 8. I think she probably should be a little bit older if we want to explore more like resonant themes. If she's 8, then the focus really is put on Andy. But then when we spend so much time with her later, it's just like, Danny's that young, but Danny's also...
He's got the shine.
He's written to be like wise beyond his years, Oh, yeah. And I kind of like that Charlie isn't written that way because, I mean, children wise beyond their years can get a little bit much after a while, but at the same time, we didn't really see her as a child very often.
And Rothman did say, I remember on the Shine episode, I mean, and I do love Danny, but he was like, sometimes Danny seems like he's like a 40-year-old or something, which is kind of like maybe like a little much. Or how do you guys feel about what about Cap? Because there's some elements of Cap that are interesting to me, like his aging, like him being frustrated at both his secretary and his wife dying and just sort of like feeling, but I think that's what makes the Rake thing so funny is the whole time Cap's like, I'm just this like old man idiot, that like, that's how he goes out, I guess. But were you guys
we don't see him really do anything. He's always just in his office having conversations.
Yeah.
I like when him and Andy kind of get together and Andy begins manipulating him because we really see the book has built up the sense that he is a little bit worried about his own like faculties because he is getting older. And I think that there's some, I don't know, I felt like a little bad for how much like the ricochet like kind of devolves him and like destroys him a little bit. It's like
I just picture the ring.
I know, it's so dumb. And it's like I guess I like the idea that we watch this man like sort of wither away before our eyes. And the same thing happened with Dr. Pinchot.
Dr. Pinchot.
I find kind of the Ricochet quality very eerie and very captivating, but ultimately Cap, like, I remember I was watching the movie, and like when in the final barn confrontation, Martin Sheen, who plays Cap, is there, and I remember like watching him because he plays such a non-role during the whole climax. Like you say, he just goes
and he's so young.
Yeah, because he's supposed to be like in his 70s. And Martin Sheen back then was in his 40s or something.
Yeah. But it's just kind of funny because the look on Martin Sheen's face is like he was like an audience member watching a play. Like he's just kind of watching what's going on, and it just punctuated to me like how purposeless he like kind of ended up being in a lot of ways. Like, yeah, he's key to Andy's escape plot, but it's like he doesn't do anything.
Well, and the thing is too, when he uses the Ricochet on Cap, it doesn't really unlock anything in Cap as far as the complexity of his character goes. Whereas with Dr. Pinchot, he has this secret about being a cross-dresser, and even now, obviously people who do that like struggle with like coming out with it, and even more so in the 80s, like it was seen as this taboo, probably icky kind of thing, even though it's not. And so with the Ricochet thing for me, I'm like, oh, cool, that's a good payoff. Like we see this character lose it because he's already been suppressing himself so much. The Cap doesn't really have anything like that.
It just does. He's talking about snakes.
Yeah, it's someone else's golf game.
Snakes. And it's interesting. It is interesting to me that like the Ricochet, it doesn't have to be a secret. It doesn't have to be anything. It's just some random thought that just gets stuck in there and just kind of builds and builds and builds. I thought it was really going to pay off, and like we were going to see like it was really going to like fuck up the escape plan or something, and yeah, when he just pulls out the rake, it's like, oh, all right. Unless I'm sure glad Cap's there to bring some comedy to the scene.
It's just really pathetic, and maybe that could have resonated, with some more character development, that he goes out in such a pathetic fashion.
That's the thing. Like if King had really driven home like the fact that this is all he is this feeble old man in the end, or if he had intentionally made a thing of comedy, it could have been really heartbreaking. Yeah. It's really, I think it's just like King didn't really know what to do in the end.
He's just the head there has to be a head of organization. Yeah. And he's the only one who can kind of order around Rainbird.
Yeah. And
but he's scared of him. He's really scared of him.
I just wonder if there was a way to maybe, I don't know, maybe after Andy uses Cap for what he needs him for, if we could have had a garbage disposal type scene with him involving the snake, like maybe he just wanders out into the woods and like, I don't fucking know.
Because it is such a step down from the garbage disposal. It's like, wow, look at what the Echo can do.
And like even just like spending some time with or making some of these shop agents actually like Randall was saying earlier about like, maybe they would want to try to contain this girl, and they're not necessarily trying to do it for evil purposes or to develop a weapon or a bunch of shop, lot 6, weapons, like the X-Men or something. But if we had spent time with Cap and like really made him almost like a government good guy, and then watched him spiral out because Andy has to do this thing to him, and then it would have been more. It could have just been the snake thing, but it would have been sad, and you would have been connected to like watching him kind of lose his mind and been sad about it. But they don't do that. So it's
honestly, some of my favorite characters in the book are in one scene. Like, I actually think if there's a strength to this book, especially in the early going, is that King has written some really lovely scenes, very interesting scenes, and created really interesting character very shortly. Like the guy that picks up Andy and Charlie on the freeway.
Good old Jim Paulson.
That's it, the trucker guy.
Grab onto Abe, my man.
Yeah, it's like it's kind of cheesy, but it's also kind of
I forgot I said that. Yeah. But it's a heartwarming scene,
it's
right?
Kind of a sweet little scene, and then like the airport policeman who like has to deal with the shop, and he doesn't trust them at all, and he's like, "Oh, I've heard what the shop are up to, and these guys are so blank faced and like Men in Black suits kind of thing, and I don't trust them, and I get an eerie, creepy feeling out of them." I really like that scene, and then
there's the soldier in the payphone booth, and they give him this little backstory about he's trying to like get around on his girlfriend.
Out of
and those people, because those feel more realistic. And Jim Paulson, that scene when they do show Andy being so down on his luck and have been just pummeled for so long, and this such small act of kindness like overwhelms him with gratitude, and I love that. Like that's a really nice thing to see, and I think something we can all relate to. Where's there another?
Well, and then like when he's in Bedford at that cabin, and then we kind of meet the residents of the town. You know, kind of the old guys who hang out.
Yeah.
Like I just remember I like seeing those glimpses because I feel like one of the best things about King is building community, building an environment.
And he writes working class characters really well.
Yeah, he writes working class characters great, but we spend so much time isolated with these characters. It's a lot of times it's people in rooms, you know, or we're at the farm is kind of the centerpiece, and that's probably one of the more enjoyable aspects of the book because we're actually meeting new people. We're seeing people who, you know, occupy different social strata than everybody else, and but so much of this book is conversations in rooms that I miss the world building and I miss the community building and meeting all these people. So every time we got a glimpse of somebody kind of outside this circle of Andy, Rainbird, Charlie, you know, it was very refreshing to me.
Yeah.
Do you guys have any thoughts on Irv and Norma?
Oh my God. I agree that he writes working characters well. I think that they're all this like, for me, they're all this like caricature-esque stand-in for just like the goodness in the world.
Yeah.
And especially Irv and his stupid sayings. I don't like them. Apple pie without a piece of cheese is like a smooch without a squeeze.
That's awful.
I forgot about that. I that actually, because I'd never had apple pie with cheese, that did make me look it up, and I'm like, ooh, that does sound pretty good. So maybe I'll take his
like, I agree
advice.
100%.
Yeah, I'm like, what are you doing? And a smooch without a squeeze is like a smooch without a squeeze.
Smooch without a squeeze.
I'm just picturing like. I don't know. I guess kissing someone without hugging them is kind of weird. But she's like,
don't rob me of that squeeze.
Also, wouldn't you be a little like? I just feel like they're so unsuspicious of an older man traveling with a young girl. If I saw that on the side of the road, I don't know. I would probably, my instinct would not be to pick them up. It would be to call the police.
Right. Yeah, and he's like, well, she doesn't seem like she's against her will. I'm like, she's 8. She probably just thinks, oh, he's got candy in his pocket, so I'm going to be nice. Yeah, I don't know.
I do like too when Irv is shot, he's still doing the like, you government sons of bitches. I swear, like he's still totally cool with that.
Unless I woke up in Russia this morning, you need a warrant to be.
He does have those very like chestnut lines of.
And wasn't he like at the end? He was like refusing the government's money to like for his house that got burned.
I don't want your blood money, you sons of bitches.
You sons of bitches.
Yeah,
it's so funny. So yeah, any other thoughts on character?
Can I talk real briefly about women in this book?
Yeah, sure. No, please. Yes.
I thought it wasn't very kind to them. I felt even the good women were like under the sway of men. Charlie does nothing without Andy's guidance. Norma is a contrast to Irvin that she's like super understandably, I think, emotional when her house burns down. Yeah. And he's like, the house is insured, Norma. Like, let's get him. And she's like cast. I feel like King does this a lot where like women just aren't as like fun. They may be more emotionally intelligent, but they're not part of the good old boys club that understands.
It is this kind of thing of like, yeah, like I said, I understand. Like, well, Irv, what about the house? And it's like, Irma, you need to be good and just help these people. Like,
she calls her like Charlie a monster, and I can understand that. Right. She's spitting fire everywhere and burning down your farm and your chickens and everything.
Kill the chickens, poor
Granther's old wife didn't know about the moonshine. She was too busy lecturing about atheism.
Yeah.
Oh, good Lord.
We're supposed to I think we're supposed to kind of like that Cap has this weird relationship with his secretary.
Was it implied that he was cheating on his wife?
I think it's implied that
okay, that's what I thought, yeah.
And then the safe cracking, I really loved when I found this out. So Rainbird is obviously a villain. Like, it's kind of gross that he's like, all women are safes, and that old guy taught me that they are crackable. But on page 224 of my book, Andy talks about cracking Vicky like a safe because of her sexual assault experience. He says, and somehow it was the Lot 6 experiment, that common experience that had enabled him to go on trying to have sex with her, like a safecracker who knows that there is a way, always a way.
Sadly, I think I had that in Pound Cake.
In Pound Cake?
Yeah.
I thought you were going to say, I had that in like my best passages.
No, that's a word processor.
Do you guys think that Do you think King was at all consciously trying to draw any parallels, or it was just a kind of a gross phrase that he?
I think he latched onto a gross phrase.
Yeah. Hey, Nubbins did not make a appearance in this book.
Actually, I when he described Vicky for the first time, I put in all capitals. He didn't mention her breasts. I was so shocked. He describes her legs and her miraculously clear complexion. But no talk of her boobs. Yes, exactly.
Gotta have that.
So,
and then Mrs. Gurney, he's mean to her too.
Yes.
Wait, which one's Mrs. Gurney? Sorry,
she's the fat lady that Andy helps.
Oh, that's right. Where he helps her lose weight or whatever. Yeah.
Andy's this super paternalistic character, but that whole passage was so gross to me because it's just these idiots don't know how to lose weight, and good old Andy's gonna come and literally brainwash them, and everything will be fine.
I do remember there's a part in there where Mrs. Gurney says, her husband stopped sleeping with her and started fucking other people essentially, and she totally understood because she gained all this weight. He says that. She's
That's just how it works, ladies and gentlemen.
Oh man. Well, speaking of gross things, I think it's time to unearth some bodies in the cemetery.
What's the bottom of the truth?
Well, sometimes that is better. The person you put up there ain't the person that comes back. It may look like that person, but it ain't that person. Because whatever lives in the ground beyond that cemetery ain't human at all.
So the cemetery is the part of the podcast where we talk about the spills, chills, and thrills of Stephen King, the stuff that freaks us out, the stuff that gives us nightmares, the stuff that we take with us into death. Is that a little too much?
Okay.
Was that too much on the...
If I'm on my deathbed thinking about Firestarter, then I lived a very shitty life.
I actually think that I think we kind of been I think as we've discussed, the characterization, the plotting of this book is a little bit clunky and weird. But I would say if I was surprised in one way by my reread of Firestarter, it's that there was actually a lot of pretty solid, freaky stuff in it.
There was. I actually think that's the strongest element of the book, oddly enough, because it's not a horror novel necessarily. Yeah.
Right. So, I think the first one that really stood out to me was in his flashback about the drug trial.
Yeah.
I actually think this. Yeah, I think this section is written really well. The way, because there's one thing I'll say about this book, he does a nice job of tailoring the language to the narrator, but also to the mental state of the narrator. Mm-hmm. So when Andy has kind of a really bad headache, the language is, it's not as free flowing. It's more punctuated. It's more, he's struggling to get the words out. And so in this drug scene, where they're all under the influence, it's written in sort of a very dreamy kind of way, which I like. But here's the section that really freaked me out, and I think we're probably all on the same page here. It's because it's written really well, and it's also disgusting, and it's also it's very evocative. So it's when he and Vicky are under the drugs. This is page 32 in the Signet edition. Several of the grad assistants were running in slow-mo toward one of the cots that had been placed near room 70's blackboard. The young fellow on the cot appeared to be doing something to his eyes. Yes, he was definitely doing something to his eyes, because his fingers were hooked into them, and he seemed to be clawing his eyeballs out of his head. His hands were hooked into claws, and blood was gushing from his eyes. It was gushing in slow-mo. The needle flapped from his arm in slow-mo. Wanless was running in slow-mo. The eyes of the kid on the cot now looked like deflated poached eggs, Andy noted clinically. Yes, indeedy.
Ugh.
And see, I actually love the yes, indeedy. Usually that'd be something I think is kind of silly, but it really captures the idea that he's so drugged up, he's not even positive what he's
so
seeing.
Tripping,
I do love the image of deflated poached eggs,
So gross.
and maybe the overuse of simile, it's kind of you throw it all against the board and then you get some good ones out of it. My only thing is later on, because they also talk later about the bloody handprint on the chart, remember, which is the same scene. And I wish that they didn't confirm that this all happened later on, because what happens is later on Andy mentions all this and they're like, oh no, that was just the effects of the drugs. I kind of wish they left it at that, but they have a point where they verified that this did indeed all happen. Right. But I do love that passage. It's so good. Yeah.
And then shortly after that, I think it's page 47, Andy's thinking about it, and it says, A sudden knocking on the moonlight-dusted far window. A branch or perhaps dead fingers streaked with gore and tissue. Let me in. I left my eyes in there. Oh, let me in. Let me in. And it's just like, again, I mean, like referencing that, and he's just clearly haunted by it, even if it didn't happen. Well, we know it did.
It's akin to the Stand, the come down here and eat chicken with me. That, being in that delirious, like you're in so much pain, you're just delirious. It's
And there's just a bit, like just a couple pages after the eye section that I find really effective. It's not scary so much as it sort of like gave me a chill when I read it. But the idea of him and Vicky like speaking, he says like he spoke to Vicky and they told each other about themselves. Andy told her about the car accident that had taken his mother's life and how he had spent the next year with his aunt and his semi-nervous breakdown of grief. She told him that when she was 7, a teenage babysitter had assaulted her and now she was terribly afraid of sex, even more afraid that she might be frigid. It was that more than anything else that had forced her and her boyfriend to the breakup. He kept pressing her. They told each other things that a man and woman don't tell each other until they've known each other for years. Things a man and woman often never tell, not even in the dark marriage bed after decades of being together. But did they speak? That Andy never knew.
Like the fact that he can't remember.
And just the idea that they were communicating telepathically is, to me, like just that the punctuation at the end of that reveal is really effective to me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. What about you guys? Any?
So part of why that scene where the kid claws his eyes out is so scary, I think, is that, like you said, like Andy's looking at it clinically. He doesn't really react. They're all drugged up. And I think there's like a sort of callback to that I loved when he makes the shop agent believe that he's blind.
Oh, yeah.
And he simultaneously made everyone at the rest stop think that nothing important is going on. So when just the end of that section, on page 235 of the Simon & Schuster. The blind man leaped away from the car as if stung. Andy hauled the wheel around and drove past him. The last thing he saw in the rearview mirror as he drove down the re-entry lane was the blind man sitting on the pavement, his face twisted in anger and terror, and the young woman placidly raising baby Michael to her shoulder to burp him.
Lingering on those kind of mundane, details.
He's just like screaming, and this one's just like,
I gotta take care of this kid.
This is such a minor thing, but it was something that stuck with me when I was a little kid and read Firestarter. In the very opening of the testing scene with Andy, and it's still when things are kind of lighthearted, he keeps talking about his vein popping up in his arm while they're trying to like test it. And as a kid, I didn't get that like a vein needed to come up for when you administer a shot. So I remember just not really knowing what that meant and just thinking like his powers were giving him this weird like pulsing vein like a David Cronenberg movie or something.
Like
scanners. Seriously. Like when I was a little kid, I was just like, ugh, like what? I remember that just always freaked me out. But then when I rereading, I'm like, oh, that's a pretty like non-threatening detail.
Oh, Justin had actually the same thing about the boy with the eyes. The dream thing that when he thinks about it later on, but he also wrote here, he just wrote the longer quote, but he whirled in a slow motion dream, a slow-mo dream, sinkingly sure that it would be that boy, a spirit in a white robe, dripping black holes where his eyes had been. Ugh.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, and like I think dream, like the way either drug logic or dream logic works in this is really good. The way like when Andy is locked up and he has some kind of nightmares. There's some really good language there that kind of freaked me out a little bit too. So like he says, this is on page 247. Now all the doors were like subway doors, bulging outward in a slight curve, fitted with large windows. All these windows had rounded corners. Through these doors, if they were doors, he saw a confusion of sights. In one room, Dr. Wanless was playing a huge accordion. He looked like some crazed Lawrence Welk with a tin cup full of pencils in front of him and a sign around his neck that read, "There are none so blind as those who will not see." Through another window, he could see a girl in a white caftan flying through the air, screaming, careening off the walls, and Andy hurried past that one quickly. Yeah. Like, that image of the woman in the caftan, like, just flying really across the walls is really surreal.
Who is that supposed to be?
I am not positive.
Well, I don't know, because is he, I guess he, in that section, he is hallucinating somewhat, right? Because obviously Wanless is not playing an accordion.
He's dreaming, but prophetically.
Yeah, it's like a prophetic dream. And so I'm not sure, like, I mean, maybe that's another image he pulled with him from the test.
It would be funny if like Wanless explained later. He's like, no, of course I play accordion.
You were wide awake.
Yeah. Speaking of pencils, like you said, you guys know what I'm gonna say. Yeah, we touched on Dr. Pinchot thrusting his arm into the garbage disposal. King, after he's killed himself, King compares it to, what does he say, like the human pencil sharpener or something like that? Yeah, what is the exact phrase? Or he talks about like the stump on his arm just like staying there to the point where it was sharpened.
His right arm vaporized nearly to the elbow, sharpened like a living pencil.
Ugh, that is so sick.
Yikes.
I mean, that seems disturbing anyway, for reasons we kind of went over with this whole idea of the ricochet and it bringing out all the inner conflict in Dr. Pinchot. And also, too, I love that the scene we see is him standing there above the garbage disposal in his wife's underwear, looking into it. He masturbates, then goes upstairs and like hides because he's scared of what he's going to do. Mm-hmm. I like that we see the sort of the preamble to him actually killing himself, and we don't see that. We don't hear about it till afterwards because we almost think like he's going to get out scot free. But that scene was actually, if I had to pick one like cemetery moment that's the most scary, I think that the Pinchot's death is the one that really gets.
And
me.
I think the lead up to it too. Like I initially had I had it in Pound Cake, the idea that he kept seeing the garbage disposal as vaginal.
Oh, yeah.
And I was kind of laughing at it at first, but then King kind of earns it because he like talks about, what happened in his past and this idea that when he was in his frat house, like they caught him wearing women's clothes like some of the guys. And the way it played out was that they like forced him to clean like or spread trash and garbage from one end of the kitchen to the other, and only in ladies' panties, stockings, and a garter belt and a bra stuffed with toilet paper. He had to clean it up, wash the floor under constant threat of discovery. All it would have taken was another frat brother wandering down for an early morning snack. And then it says the incident had ended in mutual masturbation.
Yeah, I was wondering about that. Did that mean that like if a frat guy went down, he'd like jerk them off or something? Or
I mean, I think
it means they all jerked each other off.
Yeah, they were all jerking each other off, and it's like,
or just that they were all jerking off together.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. Yeah. I was not in a frat.
There was a frat. Hey, know who what? Your brother was though for a little bit. Right?
What are you trying to say, Dan?
Yeah, no, like that. No, I know it's Justin's like that, but maybe Justin could give us some insight into that. No, I mean,
from what I know of fraternities, you don't talk about it.
Yeah,
you don't talk about the secrets.
I saw the movie Goat. No, at Florida State, where Mac and I went, frat culture is a big thing. I was not in a frat. I heard some rumors though. I have
to say, I know a lot of people from fraternities, and they're all totally great people.
They were all mutually
I don't know. I mean, obviously, there's always rumors, and there's always like maybe this went on, but who knows?
Yeah. All the frats wanted me to join. They were begging me every year. But I just I got it.
That's right. I forgot. DDC over here, dashing Dan Caffrey.
I had to focus on my studies, guys. I'm sorry. They're like, damn, but we need someone with brains and brawn. And I said, guys, I'm sorry.
Them like alone at their house, like, get me Dan Caffrey.
I'm like, no, guys. I have other priorities. I'm sorry. But how did you guys feel about the scene where Andy discovers Vicky's body?
I thought building up to it was terrifying.
Yeah, I thought so too.
He spends so much time going through the house, like it's too much to read. But he goes through their house, and you think maybe he's not going to find her, but you know he's going to find her. He looks in every conceivable place and describes everything, and you're just waiting for it. I thought that was a really good.
Yeah, I agree with that, and him noticing little details like the blood by the dishwasher, and then the fact that she was crammed into the space for the ironing board was really
and it like
freaky.
Crashes down.
I mean, in a weird way, I wasn't really sure why the agents like did that. Like they weren't really trying to hide that she was dead. I'm like, maybe they're.
Well, I think that's so funny because earlier we're talking about how like bad like shadows they are earlier, and then but they're really good at hiding her for no reason, like.
Well, also too, it's
he knows it was them. It's not like what,
and it's like if they didn't want to be found out, like they could have easily just disappeared her,
or it made it look like a suicide.
Yeah. I mean, and at least it's definitely a scary scene. But I did think I was like, it's kind of weird how they just like left her. Like, that makes it pretty obvious. Yeah. But I thought that was a pretty effective scare.
Yeah.
Also, I gotta say, I almost wish we saw more of it, but all the scenes with Charlie being a Firestarter I actually thought were pretty effective. Like the Manders Farm scene, the way he describes like the glove of flame kind of going on the one guy's head and the dead chickens, and it doesn't. The one dude, doesn't he fall and impale himself on a fence post?
I
thought
had that
gardening
for pound
spire.
cake.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a pound cake. Some nice penetration for a pound cake. Yeah. So that's what's weird about this book is like it's not in the scares department. I think it's actually pretty decent. You know,
Yeah,
it's
which I wasn't expecting.
It's not like I don't know if I definitely wouldn't call Firestarter a scary book, but I think the strongest moments of it are when King is really like tying himself to that just the evils of the government and the violence that stems from that.
Yeah, and I don't have like a specific thing. I mean, I guess maybe the pinshot stuff, but I feel like the scariest thing to me was the ricochet effect.
Yeah.
Like anytime they talk about even the stuff with Cap, even though it's just the snake, like just the fact that someone has the ability to like mess your mind up that much where there's no coming back. There's no way he can be like, forget everything I said. And I mean, he could do that, but that could set off another ricochet. And that Andy doesn't have, even though he's an adult and he's had this power forever, he still can't handle, control that,
Yeah.
So it's like, it's scary. So basically, I'm saying I would work for the shop and I would try to get these people under our control.
And one, I think that's what bums me out so much about where Cap ends up going with that ricochet, because once again the build up is great. Like you're like, oh my god, what is the snake thing gonna result in? Except for a feeble old man swatting a garden hose with a rake. If you guys had what do you guys think if Andy like pushed you? What do you think the danger of the ricochet would be for you?
I think the reason it's so scary is that it is really random, and I think people make fun of Stephen King for trying to make random things scary. But to me, this rings like it's almost reminiscent of like someone with Alzheimer's or something.
No,
like they just get caught in this feedback loop of word association and thought association.
So you think it could be any word?
Yeah, I think it rings so. That's why it's scary, is because it's just like, and dreams too. We all get stuck in these things that are really scary but don't actually make any sense if you pick them apart.
Yeah,
that's really interesting, and it makes me think of the horror movie Pontypool.
Yes. It is very similar.
I need to see
Pontypool.
that.
Yeah,
Pontypool's
it's
good.
basically like linguistic horror.
Yeah, it really is.
It's like basically language becomes sort of. It's like a zombie virus that's sort of transferred through language.
Yeah,
and words become very important, and it's like a very much like the echoing, like the ricocheting in your brain.
Because towards the end, especially, it's everyone just kind of. Who's the main guy? The main DJ host in it? I can't remember
Stephen McCatty is the actor.
He's on the air, so he's saying things in these very dulcet tones, radio voice. But he just starts repeating things, and you see him kind of slow. There's this one shot I remember where I think it's where it first starts happening, and he's just kind of losing it, but still saying it with confidence. And it's really freaky. It's really interesting. I think the ricochet thing. That's the one. That is the one element of this book that feels completely unique. Like starting fires, whatever. But I mean, that is kind of and I do like that Andy, and to even a greater extent, Vicky. I do like that they don't have complete. I mean, Andy has control over it, but like his powers are kind of latent in a way. Like they never go full steam ahead. It's just that he'll kill himself if he pushes people just a little bit too hard. It's not like he's like Professor X or something like that,
right.
So I kind of like that King makes his powers really flawed like that.
I think it's notable that none of our cemetery entries have included John Rainbird at all.
Yeah, his fucking shoe tree, that's scary.
Well, I think it just kind of points to. I mean, I'll say that his discussion of being in a like a war prison, like a dirt prison, in the war, is pretty terrifying. Eating spiders and stuff. But it was like, I think that just points to. I think the horror of the character was really undercut by us kind of getting a little too much in his head, and I think that King kind of spoiled the unpredictability of a character like that.
What about? I mean, the sort of weird traits that he gives Rainbird, like the shoe tree and all that. Do you guys think those? Do you think that's scary at all? I just figured it's funny because when I first read that, I'm like, I can't tell how I feel about this. Like a guy, is that creepy to be a guy who is obsessed with shoes and there's just like trees of hush puppies hanging around his house? I don't know.
I mean, now I'm thinking about it. Yeah, it scares the hell out of me.
Well, if you walked into somebody's house and they had that, it'd be weird. But it's not necessarily, in a book where people are clawing their eyes out, the thing that really stands out.
I love when he invites Cap over. He's like, you can come. We can come look at my shoes and have a drink. That'll be the last conversation we ever have.
He does say that, right? Like, you can come. Yeah,
if you're really curious about the shoes,
I'll show you my hush puppies, Cap.
And then we spend so much time with him, like that scene when that section of the book where Charlie like leaves the room and he's like, "Oh yeah, and like who wants to go get the little girl?" You know, he's like making jokes, and you're like, "What? Oh boy."
Any other spooky moments that we want to discuss?
I guess we had. I mean, I know I've been a little negative about this book, but I think there are a lot of spooky moments. What was yours, Mac?
I do have one. It's just that moment at the end when Charlie is thinking of. She thinks that she changed the sun.
Oh, yeah.
And it says, I think it's page 402 of the Viking. She says, but with sudden sureness that came from deep inside, she knew that she could change the sun if she wanted to in time. And I thought that was really creepy because like the whole fear that she could be this nuclear bomb that goes off in the future or something that does crack the world. And she confirms to herself without anybody telling her that she could potentially do something like change the sun. Like it's just it's mind blowing.
It's like the weight of, like her the first realization of the weight of her power.
And like
and
that
her decision to live. Like she decides, even though I can destroy everything, I've decided to obey the like law of survival. Like I want to live. And then she like, I think it says she mourns herself because she's lost like that childish thing that says like, oh, I'm so bad, I should like never do it. Like,
I will say that this is such a funny thing to say for what's easily one of my least favorite Stephen King books so far. I actually wouldn't mind a sequel to Firestarter where we see her as an adult really grappling with some of that power. You know, I think.
Well, you can. It's called Firestarter 2 Rekindle.
I was going to say, I know when Dr. Sleep was coming out, Justin would talk to me about that, and he always thought it would be cool to see Danny and Charlie together in the future, you know, because of their abilities and just to see where they both ended up, because you know they both kind of get a raw deal, and you don't. Well, obviously, you know, there's Dr. Sleep, but from what I've heard, it ain't that great.
It's not very.
Dr. Sleep might be my least favorite King book. That's not that's not Rage. It would be funny if like, well, imagine if they had a kid together, Danny and Charlie.
Just be like a ball of light.
All I can picture is the flame from Howl's Moving Castle.
Yeah,
you know, like with Billy Crystal voicing
it. Billy Crystal.
Wait, Billy Crystal voices it?
Yeah.
For the the American dub or whatever.
Oh man,
yeah.
I have such a bad taste in my mouth about Billy Crystal, as you guys know. But I do like who's the guy who does that? The Howl's Moving Castle and Spirit.
Miyazaki.
Yeah.
Like, my real passion is starting fires.
Yes, make no mistake. I had telekinesis, but my real passion was starting fires.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot of spooky stuff in here, but just because something is spooky doesn't mean that it's well written, which brings us to the word processor of the gods.
And we're going to make a new rule. Whenever I'm in here, you hear me typing. Whether you don't hear me typing, what the fuck you hear me doing in here, when I'm in here, that means that I am working. That means don't come in. Now, do you think you can handle that?
Yeah.
Fine. Why don't you start right now and get the fuck out of here?
So this is the section of the pod where we talk about just sections that we think are really beautifully written, that showcase what King does really well, things like that. I'll kick us off. I've got one like from very early in the book, and this is a section where I think it really sort of highlights King writing through Andy's pain and sort of the way he tailors the language to that, but also sort of Andy trying to find peace within that pain. Like they've just gotten picked up by the cab driver and are on their way to relative safety, at least for a little bit. So and he's having weird visions of a riderless black horse. So I'll start there. Thud, thud, thud. Riderless black horse with red eyes coming down the halls of his mind. Iron-shod hooves digging up soft gray clods of brain tissue, leaving hoof prints to fill up with mystic crescents of blood. The cabbie had been a pushover, sure, an outstanding cab driver. He dozed and saw Charlie's face, and Charlie's face became Vicky's face. Andy McGee and his wife, pretty Vicky, they had pulled her fingernails out one by one. They had pulled out 4 of them, and then she had talked. That, at least, was his deduction. Thumb, index, second, ring. Then, stop. I'll talk. I'll tell you anything you want to know. Just stop the hurting, please. So she had told, and then, perhaps it had been an accident. Then his wife had died. Well, some things are bigger than both of us, and other things are bigger than all of us. Things like the shop, for instance. Thud, thud, thud. Riderless black horse coming on, and coming on. Behold, a black horse. Andy slept and remembered. it's kind of an exposition bit, but at the same time, it's written so beautifully and so simply, I think, that it takes exposition and kind of, gives it sort of, it makes it really readable and interesting. So, yeah, that's a section I remember reading and finding myself very touched by.
Oh, it's like a little Randall and Andy McGee.
That's right.
Sounds like a Janis Joplin song.
Randall or Randy McGee.
Randy McGee and me. What about you guys?
There's not as much like sections of the book, but just like certain moments. I think it's page 366. Andy references the only dream he could remember having from this night of nightmares, or it's right around the period that you're talking about. I think.
Yeah.
And he says, Charlie staggering down the aisle between the stalls and the stable, her head gone and red-blue flames spouting from her neck instead of blood, which is creepy because I feel like that's, especially with the stables, it's very much kind of like the end of the book. My favorite, though, is page 387, where Cap starts talking about snakes.
My favorite part. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah, I don't have anything specific there.
No,
I think it just he says that I mean, as ridiculous as the snake thing is, I just like this whole little chapter. He says Cap Hollister had heard very little of the three-way conversation between Charlie, her father, and Rainbird. He was on hold. His old orders completed, no new ones yet issued. The sounds of the talk flowed meaninglessly over his head, and he was free to think of his golf game, and snakes, and 9-irons, and boa constrictors, and mashies, and timber rattlers, and niblicks, and pythons big enough to swallow a goat whole. It's just like, I just like how, all of a sudden you're on the trip with him.
You're on his wavelength.
Yeah, you're on his ricochet. Yeah.
That's really cool.
Know what I think of when I think of Cap and Snakes? Did you guys ever on Tim and Eric ever see when they did the commercials for the booger? It was the bowel and the booger. So like, Tim and Eric, they have all these fake products on the show that are these infomercials, and one is a bowel, which is a combination between a bat and an owl. It's like a stuffed animal.
It's supposed to be something that you have to scare away burglars.
Yeah.
So the booger. That's the booger.
The booger, the whole thing, the booger, which is a bear and a cougar. It's just like a bear cougar statue you put in your room. Is that you're essentially putting it there to it's so stupid to offset your own nightmares, because that's not as scary. And they have this old man who wakes up and sees it, is like, oh! And it's and he's crouching behind his sheets, up to his nose, and that's what I thought of Cap and the Snakes, him just suspiciously looking at a garden hose, I just kept thinking of the old man and the booger.
What do you have, Mel?
Yeah.
I just had a passage describing what it feels like for Andy when Charlie uses her power, because I think King is really good at putting words to these powers that don't exist and letting us feel like, oh yeah, that is what it would feel like to push somebody or to launch a fire out of my brain. It's from page 77 of my pocketbook / Simon Schuster. And he felt it pass him, the invisible, incredible bolt of death from his daughter's mind. It felt like the backwash of warm air from a highballing subway train when it's summertime and you're standing maybe a little too close on the platform. A soft, soundless passage of warm air, and then the teddy bear was on fire.
Yeah.
And the image of a teddy bear on fire, I think, is pretty
definitely
effective. Yeah.
I have a similar, in terms of describing the power and this is from what I'm about to read is from the barn climax, and after the barn has been set on fire, and just the description of the chaos that ensues, I think, is really fascinating. And this is on 368 of the Signet edition. Everything was blurred, ghostly. The air was full of hot, choking smoke and red flashes. The horses were still battering at their stall doors, but now the doors, latchless, were swinging open. Some of the horses, at least, had been able to back out. Charlie fell to her knees, feeling for her father, and the horses began to flash past her on their way out, little more than dim, dreamlike shapes. Overhead, a flaming rafter fell in a shower of sparks and ignited the loose hay in one of the lower bays. In the short side of the L, a 30-gallon drum of tractor gas went up in a dull, coughing roar. Flying hooves passed within scant inches of Charlie's head as she crawled with her hands out like a blind thing. Then one of the fleeing horses struck her a glancing blow, and she fell backwards. One of her hands found a shoe. And I thought that was just such a beautiful way to describe the chaos and the action, and a child's reaction to that I thought was really powerful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah,
and you get some good word press. Yeah, there's some good stuff in there. Yeah,
But then,
it's no dead zone.
I guess he is a good writer.
But I think that's going to take us to a section of maybe some bits that weren't so good. Ladies and gentlemen, it's time for a dish of pound cake.
After all you've been taught, everyone in bad, Mama. Everything in the sin. Come to your closet and pray. Ask to be forgiven. He's a nice boy, Mom. You like him. You really like him, Mama.
Pound cake is a section of the show where we like to talk about bits where King kind of made us giggle a little bit, perhaps unintentionally. We like to poke fun at how he writes about sex and sensitive issues and other things of that nature. Because I have a couple of pound cakes that go, beyond just creepy depictions of sex.
Which there aren't a lot of in this book at all. Really, I mean, sex-wise, we talked about maybe some of the undertones of Rainbird or whatever, but even less so than the Dead Zone. I mean, there's not like a sex scene in this book. There's no nubbins. There's no.
I don't know. There's no nubbins, but
let's hear what Randall's
when
got.
He's first talking about Vicky, like I said earlier, he doesn't mention her boobs, which I wrote in all caps, like, oh my god. But he says, pretty girl, tall, light auburn hair, marvelously clear complexion, wearing a powder blue sweater and a short skirt. Good legs, no stockings. Casual. He goes casual appraisal of the future wife. But then later he goes. He's like waiting for her. He goes. He decided to wait. At the very least, he would get another good look at those legs.
He does. He did this in The Shining too. He uses the phrase "good legs" a lot, but he always. I think in The Shining, I'm not joking. Like he capitalizes it like it's this proper
good
thing.
Leg,
yeah, like a superlative. Like the winner of best legs goes to Wendy Torrance.
Superior Gams trademark.
And then, like, later, the way OJ kind of talks about women is kind of unnecessarily intense.
And he's supposed to be gross, but it's,
Yeah, and so the waitress, she started to turn away, and OJ caught her wrist in a tight grip. He didn't like women who made fun of his looks. Most women were sluts anyway. His mother had been right about that, even if she hadn't been right about much else. And his mother surely would have known what to think about a high-tit bitch like this one.
It's overdoing it a little bit. Like
much.
The all women are sluts and
It's a bit much.
I've got one that doesn't have anything to do with sex. I just think it's kind of a lame plot point and like the way he unfolds it. It's at the very, very end. So Charlie's escaped. And she's doing what her dad tells her to. She's going to spill the beans on everything that happened to her. Yeah. And where does she go to? Here, I'll do the little reveal of this. So okay, so she's talking to a librarian and she's asking where can I tell my story to? And so she's like describing what kind of publication she wants to bring it to. Big, that is, nationwide. She nodded again. No ties to the government. For the third time, the thin girl nodded. Do you mind my asking why? I have to tell them something. Then we go down just a little bit to like the next subchapter or whatever, and she's. I'm just gonna read this last. This is like the last section of the book. The little girl rode the elevator up to the 16th floor of the skyscraper. Several of the men and women who rode with her looked at her curiously. Just a small girl in a green blouse and blue jeans, holding a crumpled paper bag in one hand and a sun-kissed orange in the other. That's good. That's all fine. But they were New Yorkers, and the essence of the New York character is to mind your own business and let people mind theirs. That's great. So here we go. She got off the elevator, read the signs, and turned left. Double glass doors gave on a handsome reception area at the end of the hall. Written below the two words the librarian had spoken her was this motto: "All the news that fits." Charlie paused outside a moment longer. "I'm doing it, Daddy," she whispered. "Oh, I hope I'm doing it right." Charlie McGee tugged open one of the glass doors and went into the offices of Rolling Stone, where the library center. Now,
all I could think was Almost Famous.
No, and like maybe Rolling Stone was different back then than it is now, and it was. But I just love this idea of like, oh, we're gonna do this expose. King's writing about it just in such this cool way. Like the librarian's like, I know where to send you. And I love that she has to go with all the news that fits. And I'm like, why do we even need it to be a real publication? Why can't it just be the ending of her going into this? It just seems... Stephen King's a huge rock and roll fan. It just seems like him trying to really ride that out. Like, I'm not sending her to the New York Times. I'm not sending her to the Washington Post. I'm sending her to the Rock and Roll
It's like
magazine.
hugely cinematic. He's like, this is what it's going to look like when they do the movie. And they
exactly.
Don't do it.
And it's like, and it's so silly because it's seriously set up like it's a reveal. Like it's a cool I mean, it's the last page you find. She's going to the offices of Rolling Stone. And I just picture, like, it'd be funny if, like, Ben Fong Torres or Jan Warner was there, like, oh, what's your name? I'm the editor. And, like, start talking. And
no, it's, I actually was thinking a lot about this. And it's like, I think this was, very much King's sort of, like, far left beliefs coming out, totally. And very much a distrust of not just government, but probably big media too.
Which is hilarious because Rolling Stone, I mean, they totally are shills for like.
But that's the thing, was it was so different back then. So I think what he was getting at, he's like
the counterculture.
Yeah, he's like the counterculture is where the real news and the real stories.
So what would it be today? Where would she go?
Oh, God, I don't even know, man.
Like
some blog.
I think a little site called Consequence of Sound.
I think she'd come to the Losers Club.
No, honestly, I think it would be like a Medium post.
Yeah, you put it on Medium.
Yeah,
like, it'll blow up
because
registered for a Twitter account.
No, exactly. No, seriously, like I mean, I feel like now it would be like something like the Chicago Reader or something like that. Maybe like it makes more sense for it to be. Because now, because of the internet being what it is, you can break something in a smaller paper and it like catches fire.
Yeah.
But back then it's kind of like. I mean, look, I grew up reading Rolling Stone. I'm not meaning to trash it. We have writers who've written for Rolling Stone at COS, but Rolling Stone, I mean, they've gotten a lot of accusations of giving, huge artists like Bruce Springsteen or U2 or whoever, like always giving them 5 stars because of supposedly reporters are getting like box seats at their concerts and shit like that. And look, that happens anywhere. Like that's the reality of the music criticism industry. It's all tied to ads and whatever else. But when I think of like the landmark publication that's going to break the scoop, Rolling Stone's not the place. I mean, they do have some great political writing still, but they also have the thing like the on campus date rape story that was false. It's like so. Obviously King doesn't know that, but I just cracked up at the end. I'm like, oh, this is their giant fucking reveal. She's going to Rolling Stone.
It doesn't hold up.
Yeah, it just like cracked me up, and I love the reveal. Just the fact that first it's like, no ties to the government, but big, and then all the news that fits that a Rolling Stone. Mm-hmm. Just the unveiling of that like just killed me. Anyway,
No, I'm with you. That's so funny. Mel, what do you got?
Oh, he had like a sort of his own pound cake where Wanless is describing the complex to Cap. All right, it's on page 108 of my book. And suddenly, astonishingly, the old man's voice climbed to a high, wavering treble, the voice of a woman scolding a baby. Cap looked on with disgusted astonishment. You bad baby, Wanless cried. Look what you've done. It's nasty, baby. See how nasty it is? It's nasty to do it in your pants. Do grown-ups do it in their pants? Do it on the pot, baby, on the pot.
That might be the best one.
He's like, yeah, this is weird.
I just pictured like, because the way he describes Cap, it's kind of like he's just always sort of like listening to things and getting like quietly perturbed by them, and he has like a newsboy cap, right? Cap wears this like dry cap, and because any Martin Sheen play him in the movie, but he's supposed to be way older than that. I was picturing Joe Estevez, who's Martin Sheen's brother, who essentially looks like the older, like not as studly version of him, and who's always like worried looking. So I just picture him like, what's going on?
I've got another one here. This is just one that made me kind of cringe when I read it, and it's that small and involuntary ripple of disgust again, and this time Andy felt the sick satisfaction that he imagined a black guy who has successfully tommed an unpleasant white must feel. And I was like, what?
It's back, his obsession.
What does tommed mean?
I guess like tricked.
Yeah.
Oh, Tom. Like they played.
Yes.
I played the black stereotype, but I was actually like getting pulling a fat. It's essentially playing the black trickster character.
Gotcha. That's like, just so bizarre.
Yeah.
Like where did that come from?
I like didn't notice some of this stuff reading it, but Mac, do you have any?
You guys touched on everything except, I mean, I had on here just like Andy and Vicky's first time, and just the bumbling, like trying to have sex and it's just not working, and the safe crack thing was just weird to me, and then OJ goosing the woman. It just was like it was like what, we really got this character back just for this scene so he can like be demeaning to another woman. Like, what?
OJ in real life is goosed the legal system twice over. Am I right, guys? Guys, what are your thoughts on OJ getting it?
No, no, we're gonna have him on the cast soon. So
I would love to get OJ to talk about the character of OJ.
Yeah, hey, OJ, you're familiar with Frightening Things? How do you Stephen King? I'm a little bummed that we don't have, for a book that is not one of our favorites. I'm a little bummed that we don't have some like crazy sex stuff to talk about, because that's always like a fun.
I've got a couple other fun things.
Yeah, why not? Yeah.
So sometimes this is, I think, King getting a little carried away with there's a character named Louis Tranter who is a guard in the shop, and like King kind of fetishizes how fat the guy is in like ways that are a bit absurd. Yeah. So it's like Louis Tranter, a hugely fat man whose buttocks nearly overflowed the chair he sat in, but then it keeps going. So then Rainbird comes in and like scares him, and so he says, Louis Tranter paled noticeably. The hostess Twinkie he had been eating dropped from his hand onto the slanted steel panel that housed the TV monitors and microphone pickup controls. It rolled down the slant and tumbled to the floor unheeded, leaving a trail of crumbs behind. Suddenly he wasn't a bit hungry. And then later... Wait, let me get that.
I love that, like...
Doesn't he pick it back up?
That's fine if he wants to have like a kind of, you know, overweight security guard and show how afraid he is of Rainbow. But I love that he has to not just like eating a sandwich, eating a fucking Twinkie. It's like the most like that's cliche like so later, fat guy food.
Hugely fat.
Yeah.
It's like Louis stared at the closed door for several seconds and then uttered a great and gusty sigh of relief. His armpits were humid and his white shirt was stuck to his back. A few moments later, he picked up his fallen Twinkie, brushed it off, and began to eat it again.
Oh, God. They just make him like...
just like the most like quivering jowls, kind of scared like at Rainbird. It's like...
That's like Rothman always we always joke, because I sort of like the movie Jurassic World, and I don't think it... Mel, how do you like Jurassic World?
No.
All right. It'll fit right in here. No, but so I like sort of like it, but one of the things Rothman and I always joke about is that there's the security guard that the Dominus Rex, like it's its first victim, and they just go to such great lengths to make this guy just like fat and useless. Like he's just this like really bumbling guy sitting there. He's not paying attention to this big dinosaur out there, and he's like eating like this bagel, like dripping cream cheese. Like they just, I'm like. Like I said, I'm fine having an overweight security guard. Like, it's good to have overweight characters, like whatever. But like the fact that they have to go, oh, he's like this dumb guard.
Right.
He's eating a bagel, and then the T-Rex like runs, or D-Rex runs after him, and he's just like, it's like a South Park scene or something. And they always like, King does not love that here. The guards just making them just 5 levels of ineptitude.
He does it with Miss Gurney too.
Yeah.
If I can read her description.
Please.
She had come in smooth and monstrous and desperate in her green pantsuit. and her ass was nearly as wide as the bank president's desk.
Oh my God.
When she looked down into her purse to find her checkbook, her 3 chins became 6. He loves to write about fat people. He loves it. And then when it's so sad when she comes to him in the dream later, and he's like, "You look so pretty," and she goes, "I feel like I've been let out of jail." Like it's
I just love too. It's like
bad.
It's like all you have to say is like, oh yeah, she was really overweight. She weighed this much, or fine. You want to talk about how big her ass is? Fine.
He clearly thinks it's grotesque.
He says monstrous and like it's
smooth and monstrous.
And you could just say, oh, like her chins were like pushing together, but it's like her 3
mathematically
her 3 chins became 6. You're like, Jesus, that's so crazy.
I've got a good one to close us out on for Pound Cake, unless anyone has any others.
Let's finish that dish.
Yeah. Here's the final crumbs on the table, but I think they'll make you happy, Dan, because this is classic King Pound Cake. Okay. The head leaned back in Cap's chair and laced her hands behind her neck. The man who was not a librarian eyed appreciatively the way her sweater pulled taut across the rounds of her breasts. Cap had never been like this, and so, but it's just like
rounds.
This is the woman who like took over like
the secretary.
This was
the shop.
The shop, like she was Cap's replacement at the shop, I believe.
Oh man,
yeah, and like this is near the end of the book, and still this is the woman who is in the position of power. Yeah, and there has to be a moment when we have to point out her breasts, and it's like so unnecessary and funny to me.
Oh man. Well, it's funny because we went in a little light on pound cake, but I think we substituted for the lack of grossness with some funniness.
Oh, there's a lot of good stuff. I think pound cake encompasses multitudes, but I think we're all a bit full now, so I think it's time to burn some calories in a King's Dominion.
There's another world out there. I know there is.
This is the section of the podcast where we talk about how this book ties in to other books in King's canon. Spoilers abound. Well, I don't know if they will here, but...
Yeah, there's only a few little things. I mean, the most obvious one I saw was Dr. Patrick Hockstetter. It's from It, but obviously way so different characters.
Like, why did
he... And he used the name... No, wait, I have a question. I should have verified this. And I've read all the versions of the It script we have a leaker in there.
Yeah, I was gonna say we haven't read them though.
We have a source. I'm not gonna spoil them, but thank you to our source. Justin and I've read the 3 drafts of the It script I think this final one is supposedly the one that's coming out. But anyway, it's weird in the script because they add like an extra letter to his name. It's like Patrick Hockstetter or something. Stettler. And then what's his name? Because I guess what I'm saying is I feel like whenever King has the name Patrick Hockstetter, which happens quite a bit, I think it's like slightly different every time.
It's Hockstetter here.
No, it's Hockstetter.
Oh, okay.
Hockstetter? Right? Here, let me see.
I remember looking up, and it's the exact same name as in It.
So
I'm pretty sure.
Interesting. So It is Patrick.
No, you're right. Hockstetter.
Yeah.
Okay, so it is and it's Hockstetter. It's Hockstetter in It. I think.
So it's the same.
And then, but there's a version of the It script where it's like they changed it to like Hockstetter.
But they changed a lot of like names.
Yeah, that was so weird.
It's very bizarre. Anyway,
like they changed Henry Bauer's name to Travis Bowers
because Henry wasn't a popular name in the '80s. I'm like,
no, fuck
doesn't
off.
matter. Yeah, but anyway, so I guess that's maybe just going to the. Why don't we turn our resident beamologist? Is that just like a different beam?
Well, yeah, is that beam of the rat?
Oh, no, I couldn't find any beam-esque stuff. There wasn't a lot of 237 in this either, so it was a little disappointing. But Justin had a couple of things. In chapter 1, the cab driver says, "Don't tell me, I'll tell you."
Yeah,
just like the kid.
Yeah, in the stand.
And Dr. Wainless is referred to as, they say, he's a rat man.
The rat man forgive you this time.
Ah, damn it! I was going to say that one.
Yeah, the rat man.
That's like one of my. I was like, well, we had a visit from my favorite character from The Stand. Yeah, on page 10. Well, Quincy said he's a rat man and a Skinner man both.
So Skinner and Skin Man is that's what they the Wind Through the Keyhole. Yeah. That's what they call the shape changing animal guy.
Well, here they're referring to Skinner the psychologist.
Well, I think it's a beam connection.
There's a couple of Dark Tower things I felt were a stretch. Now, page 217, when Rainbird, and you mentioned this, Mel, he says, if it is the will of my ancestors, Rainbird prayed silently, guide my hands and my eye, that the shot may be true. And I just felt like that was almost like the opposite of like what a gunslinger would say, in terms of I shoot with my heart, not with my hand or eye.
Interesting.
And then also the idea of the ricochet, I feel like the Man in Black, like Martin or Flagg, has that ability, like with the word 19 when he tells the woman in Toll, and then she loses her mind.
Oh, yeah. Good catch.
I mean, I thought that was kind of cool. And then the only real like thing that kind of unnerved me that I felt like was kind of connected was on page 187 of the Viking Press edition. Andy describes he's talking about like the thalidomide babies of the 60s. And he says the girl children who were going to develop vaginal tumors in abnormal numbers. And that reminded me of Johnny Smith's mother, how she had a ton of tumors in her, like,
that's right. Because
and how, like, after she gave birth to him, they found all these, like, benign tumors or whatever in her... and I thought that was really interesting. But I feel like that's also just like with the 60s and a lot of people doing drugs, and they were like, well, this is going to affect your babies, et cetera, et cetera. But I just thought that the specificness of the vaginal tumor thing right after coming on the heels of the Dead Zone, I thought maybe this took place in the same universe.
Yeah. And then also it should be noted the shop was also mentioned in The Stand, the Tommyknockers, and The Mist.
Oh,
they're out there.
What about you?
I had a couple.
Yeah.
This one might be a stretch. He does go into the garage for a moment to get a can of turtle wax.
That's good. Yeah,
I thought of that too.
This.
Yeah, and then my favorite one, which also might be a stretch, but I like, on page 422 of my book, Charlie's dream when she's riding Necromancer. Ahead of them was a huge deadfall, a blowdown of white wood like a tangled cairn of bones, which is like totally Pet Sematary, right? And she's riding a horse named Necromancer.
Yeah.
Brings things back from the dead.
Pet Sematary comes pretty soon after this one too.
Well,
and
he had written
in it too.
He had written Pet Sematary like before, like years before it was actually released.
Is the King Compendium on the shelf over there? Because I just want to flip through it and see if they have anything that we right there, the complete Stephen King universe. Yeah, that one. Let me just look through it real quick because Mike usually does this, but he's obviously not here today, so I just want to see if there's any anything written in it that we did not pick up on. The shop actually has, I know, constant listeners, we actually had to pause while I flip through, so did we blow this studio trickery here? But I flipped through, and so the shop actually also appears in Golden Years, which is the network television show made by Stephen King. Have any of you seen Golden Years?
No.
Actually, I haven't either. That involves aging experiments. Let's see. And then it says it plays a role in the Langoliers from 4 Past Midnight. Do you guys remember?
No.
Are they the source of like those weird Langoliers?
I mean, they might be like who's called upon to cover up the mess or whatever.
Yeah. I feel like, I mean, it's not verified, but I feel like The Mist, you could easily say that's the shop.
Sure.
Maybe.
Yeah.
I think any like shadow organization you could probably say it. Going back to Hochstetter, whatever it is. Hochstetter?
Yes.
Real quick. Do you guys think there's anything to be said for a connection between this character and the character from It, just in terms of like personality? I mean, I guess in a way they both like tinkering with things, but this guy seems a little bit he seems not nearly as sadistic and crazy as the kid from It.
Well, you just said something, Mel, that was interesting.
I think Charlie says at one point that she knows, she gets that read off of him that might be a little bit psychic, that he doesn't care about her. He sees her as a creature in a test tube. And so Patrick Hochstetter in It is keeping all these dead animals in a fridge as like an experiment too. So there's like psychopathy there, I guess.
Yeah. Well, and no, what's funny is that the idea of this like fridge with weird shit happening in it pops up in a couple earlier stories too, like the Mangler and some other ones.
They're not dead, are they? He puts them in there when they're
in It, I think
doesn't he start when they're alive?
Yeah, he starts when they're alive.
He was like an animal torturer, I remember.
Yeah, that is, I mean, It might be my favorite Stephen King book. And there are a ton, I mean, it's just everything's unsettling in It. But that scene, the Patrick Hochstetter
his demise,
scene,
or his experiments, or both.
Yeah,
no,
totally.
All that stuff is so gross. Like when I was a kid, I remember I was like, some of that stuff was going over my head because it was so depraved, you know?
Yeah, no, it's I mean, we actually have a constant listener send in a theory about it that we'll save for when we get to it. But
that was really interesting.
It was really cool. Yeah, it's about Patrick Hochstetter. So we'll have a while before we get to it, but I want to save it for that. But thank you for saying that.
Speaking of not being able to get phrases out correctly, it's time to rate this on our scale of bright red Pennywise clown noses.
You're on point with your transitions.
We're going to talk about our overall thoughts.
Dad, can we go now?
You ready?
Yeah, we've been ready for an hour.
Okay, I'll be right there.
You said that a half hour ago. Yeah, my dad's weird. He gets like that when he's writing.
And I've got, I've also got some thoughts from Mike, and you have some from Justin also too. Right?
I do.
Yeah,
Sweet. So let's just break down just a couple sentences on how you feel about this book as a whole and what rating you would give it. Me personally, I think that there's actually... I don't think that... I've heard some people say that Firestarter is one of the weakest Stephen King books. I don't know if I'd say that. I think that it has a lot of solid, pleasing, evocative, freaky moments in it. And that's something I'm always looking for when I'm reading King, is like, I want to feel unnerved. And I got that a lot. The problem is that even though the book is a shorter book in the King canon, it still kind of felt like a slog to me at times.
Yeah.
Especially the latter section in the book where Rainbird and Charlie are kind of building a relationship. That to me felt really slow. And And I think combining that with sort of the lack of narrative momentum, the kind of, clumsy structure of the book, and the characters that just aren't as vivid as in a lot of other Stephen King books, I think that hurts it as well. But at the same time, like, I definitely enjoyed reading this more than some other books, like, say, Dr. Sleep. I think that there's enough sort of, and like the thing is, there's a lot of memorable things in Firestarter. Like, as even though I hadn't read the book in more than maybe 20 years or something, I still remember the garbage disposal, and I still remember the guy clawing his eyes out. Like, I still remembered those things, and I think that says something, because there's other books that maybe I enjoyed more ostensibly as I was reading them, but there's, I think, something memorable about certain parts of Firestarter. So I'm going to give this 2.5 bright red Pennywise clown noses. And that's my story, and I'm sticking to it. Dan? Oh, yeah. How about you, Mel?
Either way, who wants to go first? Do you want to go first, Mel?
I pretty much echo it, I guess. I'm not very interested in children in general, so I feel like that was... I'm not maybe the ideal reader for this book, but I really liked Andy. I thought King's descriptions of how their powers were used were really riveting. It wasn't difficult for me to get through the book in pretty much a week. Like, I found myself turning the pages. I was never like, oh, time to put this down. I'm kind of bored. I do feel like it was pretty scattered, and the shifting point of view really took me out of it a couple times. And I again, like, not to push this too hard, but I know times were different, but the cultural insensitivity that's in it really also wounded my reading of it, my perspective on it.
Well, and it's tough too, because I mean, pretty much every King book, with the exception of The Dead Zone, has a few moments like that of cultural insensitivity, but they're so
like your
isolated.
Main villain.
That's the issue, yeah. And the Shining has Dick Hallorann, and there's certainly moments where he, I guess, for lack of a better word, falls into a little bit of maybe jive talk or something.
Right.
But for the most part, that's a very well developed character and a very sympathetic character and a hero, And so I think it's like with Rainbird, though, it's like this person we hate, so it's a little bit tough.
And I think the most interesting questions go unanswered.
Absolutely.
So I'm gonna downgrade to 2. Bright red Pennywise clown noses out of 5.
Congratulations on your first bright red Pennywise clown.
I know.
Thank you. I feel like I've just been let out of jail.
What do you got, Mac?
I'm gonna echo that with a 2 bright red Pennywise clown noses. I agree with everything you guys said. There's not a lot else I could say. I had a little trouble reading it. I moved through it fairly quickly, but I just didn't care.
Yeah.
And I think I started to care at one point early on in the beginning when when they first introduced Rainbird, I was like, oh, this is going to be more complex than I thought it was going to be. And then it just kind of doesn't do anything. Mm-hmm. And absolutely coming on the heels of The Dead Zone, it was kind of tough in that sense because I was so invested in that book.
Yeah.
It gets 2 noses and that's it.
2 noser.
Yeah, that's that. I mean, I think that's the main issue is we're coming off of King's, I don't know if it was the 70s were his strongest decade necessarily, except there are a lot of great books coming up. But I mean, he had such a good run for such a long time. The Dead Zone is so far my absolute favorite. And reading this right after it, it's like, I understand the connection, but at the same time, it's like he's just not pulling it off as well for reasons you guys already mentioned. I mean, the main thing for me is that all of his books are very plot heavy, but this, I think, it just hinges almost solely on plot. He, as I said before, he's not really using the plot or this concept of high fantasy or high science fiction to delve into anything interesting to me thematically. Mm-hmm. I think there are moments of that, but he never follows through on them. He never follows through on the parenthood thing. He has the opportunity to get more complex and have more conflict with the relationship between John Rainbird and Charlie, but he never goes there either.
Yeah.
And I'm fine with a book that is solely about plot. I mean, there are probably other King books that are, but the thing is here is that if this book is all about plot and not as much character or theme, then the plot needs to be tightly wound and have no fat to it and move along. And this one just doesn't for me. It just kind of dips and goes up a little bit, dips and goes up a little bit. There are definitely moments, as we said, that were scary to me. There are a couple characters I dug. there are definitely things to take away from it. But yeah, overall, it just flatlines a little bit. So I'm going to go also with 2 bright red Pennywise clown noses.
I think that averages it out at 2 bright red Pennywise clown noses.
Yeah, I think too that's Rage is still holds the Golden Turd Award, but I think Firestarter at this point is probably our second least favorite book. And
I'd say so.
I have a bit from our co-loser Mike, and I know you have one from Justin. So Mike said,
"Oh boy,"
Mike said, "It's not a fiery read. It's not a slow burn. It's like trying to start a bonfire on a rainy night when the wood never fully catches. You think it will, but it never does. Stranger Things actually found a much-needed spark to this narrative, all things considered. 2-noser. Sorry, Charlie. Michael Christopher Rothman, the Castle Rock Gazette." That's it is. We maybe when we get into the adaptations in a minute, we can talk about this. I do want to touch on the Stranger Things element a little bit.
Yeah, we can.
But what are Justin's thoughts?
Justin just said that it's more like Dead Zone. It's not really a horror novel. It's a fantastical man-on-the-run story. He says that it's King in the throes of addiction. Maybe it's so rushed and manic. And then he also, of course, had to point out that he says the driver who picks up Andy and Charlie mentions the Padres being in the World Series. The team wouldn't actually make the series for another 4 years. Thanks, Justin.
Maybe that is a sign that King just not paying much attention.
That or they're on a different beam.
And I reached out to Allison and Justin to see how many noses they gave it, but I think it's safe to say this is probably a 2-noser.
Yeah. I think it's just a solid 2-noser.
Yeah.
A 2.5 from this cat's point of view.
This cat's eye. Also Drew Barrymore. Justin or Rothman did also want to say, love the movie though, better than Godfather 2, but a hair below Airheads.
Oh God, that's an inside joke, listeners. We've come to decide whether each movie is better or worse than Airheads and Godfather 2. It's a horrible rating scale.
It really is.
Since we're talking about movies, I think it's time to pivot over to the film and discuss the adaptation.
Don't worry, Mom. I know all about cannibalism. I saw it on TV.
See? It's okay. You saw it on the television.
Charlie McGee is a healthy 8-year-old girl. Normal in every way.
Charlie, now watch what you're doing.
But one.
Did she do that?
What are you going to do with her? I'll bring her here so you can do all your tests. And you give her to me.
Charlie has the power.
Do something bad? Will you still love me?
Oh, Charlie. She can set things on fire.
Something's happening in there.
With just a glance. It is a power she does not want.
Stick with him.
Daddy, I'm scared.
So am I, honey.
A power she cannot control.
Back up.
Now, you guys all watched this a lot more recently than I did, so I want to hear your...
Well, I think it's neat. It's actually a very loyal adaptation.
Super loyal.
Yeah.
Too loyal.
Yeah, it's too loyal,
and I think
absolutely.
that's sort of the problem with it. There was actually another draft that was written that... John Carpenter was actually slated to direct, but the project fell apart. I think this is before Dino De Laurentiis came on board. Steven. Dino came on, and then that's when I believe the director's name was Mark Lester, and he had mainly done sort of like exploitation kind of horror before this, like pretty low budget stuff. So this was his first like big movie. I believe.
I think he directed Commando.
Yeah, after this, he went on to direct Commando.
Yes.
Yeah, and so I think that's neat. But yeah, the script that was written, King called it his favorite script that had ever been written of one of his books. We have a long Mel, just so you know, we talk a lot about on this podcast about how an endorsement from King's movie wise doesn't really mean much, because he kind of says every movie is going to be great, but then he trashed Firestarter later. Yeah. Like, he trashed it harshly, and then Mark Lester said in interviews, like, I think in the early 90s, he's like, he's like, King was so mean to me. Like, he trashed me so hard, like, during this whole process. Like,
I understand it a little bit from the director's point of view, because the same happened with The Graveyard Shift. That's not a great movie, but it was like he was repping this movie hard, and as soon as the critics came after it, King was like, yeah, they're right, this movie sucks. And, like, that's kind of a shitty thing to do, I think.
I think with this movie, again, like, it is almost too faithful. But my problem with the movie was they left out the best things. Like, there's no ricochet effect in the movie.
Oh, really? Man.
Yeah, and like I just thought that was really strange. And then of course we got George C. Scott playing Rainbird. Now look, I love George C. Scott, but like, you know, I mean, I guess they were like, well, do we really want to try to do the Native American thing?
They put him in a vaguely Native American.
Yeah, but and then he's like he's wearing like that Native American like him shawl or like that coat.
And he has a ponytail too. That's like done in a Native American.
It's like why don't they just? I mean, for today, I mean, because just in the interest of diversity, it'd be good to like find a Native American to play John Rainbird. Why not? But back then, if they knew they weren't going to do that, why not just like call him John or something? Like not try and make it put him. Did they put him in like brownface or anything? Or
no, they don't.
But you could still have him you could just have him be a war. You know, someone who's in a war, and like he has a glass eye. He doesn't have like, the eye patch or anything. I mean, he wears the eye patch when he sees Charlie, but like.
No,
it's just weird.
It's so. So you've got Drew Barrymore playing Charlie. She was a big star at the time. She had come off E.T. A lot of people were predicting big things for her. Luckily, I think this is before she had her insanely young drug addiction. And
I read that she started drinking when she was like 8 or something crazy like that.
Well, like I don't know. I was talking about it with my wife, and we were just kind of like. You know, I think having children in the industry was probably, and she was such a big star that it was probably so unregulated back then.
Oh yeah,
and we were just terrified thinking of the kind of parties she was probably going to because there's photos of her like I don't know if it's a joke or not, but there's a photo of her like drinking, holding a beer and like bringing it to her mouth like comically, and I think it was a joke picture.
But she was actually,
but there's like adults next to her like laughing, and you know that they were probably like back then they were probably all like, drink it.
Was her dad John Barrymore, right? I mean, they were. I think.
Well, she comes from a whole family of entertainment.
I think they all had some substance abuse issues too. So,
but I think that also helped her come out of it easier because she had a lot of support in the industry from her family. But it's kind of terrifying to think of how much she was probably taken advantage of when she was really young.
Yeah. You know? Well, how is she in the movie?
I know that's the thing is we're like getting into her career, but I guess it's just kind of interesting to me to think about because you know this is when she would have been engaging in that. But honestly, I mean, I think I read a review of it, and it's like for as much charisma and presence as she has, and she's super adorable and everything in the movie. But you know, 8-year-olds don't have a ton of range, and she kind of goes from shrill and shrieking to like you know. Mop-it adorableness.
Well, I rewatched just a few scenes from it, and the scene where she attacks all the agents at the farm, and I don't know if this is a result of her performance or just the direction of the movie in general. Like everything's kind of happening like it does in the book, but there's no sense of escalation. Like she just kind of comes out on the porch, looks at them. There's creepy music and fire starts, but there's no like. Dread, you know what I mean? There's no build up or anything like that, and every scene I watched just kind of had flatness to it. I didn't dislike it necessarily; it didn't feel like it was nailing any of the good parts of the book.
Even though it's literally following the book like beat for beat, scene for scene.
A lot of lines are taken directly from the book.
That makes it move way too quickly through each scene. And then also when they use their powers, I just felt like it's so slow.
Yeah.
There's a part at the end where she blows up a helicopter, and it's like her in the wind, helicopter. Her hair is blowing even more. Back to the helicopter. It doesn't blow up yet. Back to her. Yeah. Is it going to happen? Nope. We're just going to look at the helicopter again. And it like finally explodes. And it's the same with Andy. It looks like he's constipated for like 3 minutes before he actually pushes somebody.
Well, he puts his hands over the sides of his heads too, which is so dumb.
Well, and that's like the only time he can do it. Like if he can't put his hands on his head, he can't do it. And it's like, wait, what?
Well, and then like wind blows
the wind is
Charlie's
weird.
hair, which is weird. And King even said that he's like, that was unnecessary. And the director's like, fuck you.
Well, and that's the thing because they don't, I think with both Andy and Charlie, their powers are they're mental, they're psychological. That's what's triggering it. So, this is a hard thing to pull off on film without like a lot of special effects or just an ace director. You have to get this idea of them like concentrating and building up for it, you know. And I think, unfortunately, if you just focus on her going like, it's not going to do the trick. I mean, I in a weird way, I almost feel like you need something more avant-garde to do. Well, like for Stranger Things, for instance, like the way they show her concentrating, I mean, it's very stylistic and like forces that tension into there.
There were two things I did like about the movie though was Tangerine Dream soundtrack is actually pretty good.
I was reading some modern reviews of it, and people are trashing it, and I'm like, I actually thought the soundtrack
I thought it was
awesome.
Pretty good, and it was definitely like very John Carpenter.
Well, and it reminded me of Stranger Things, like the Survive soundtrack.
It does. I'm surprised we haven't talked about that yet. And I liked all the practical effects, all the fire. Like you would not see that today. It would be all CG and it'd be very apparent.
Well, we're gonna see it because Akiva Goldsman is directing.
I know,
and I think it's going to be one big CGI ball.
And it's so backwards. It's like oh well, Stranger Things is really popular, so we're gonna remake Firestarter, which Stranger Things is kind of a ripoff of. It's just like wait, what? Like why are we doing this?
I have a question about that though. Like I totally agree that I think Stranger Things, and I like Stranger Things, but I have issues with it that I think we've talked about before. But I think it's a ripoff in terms of the plot. Like essentially the shop is like lifted or the organization Stranger Things is lifted from Firestarter, and 11. The way 11 is like trying to be manipulated by the government. That's all very much true in her being a fugitive. But I don't know, tonally and like the point of view of the characters, like Stranger Things feels a lot different to me than Firestarter.
I mean, yeah. I also think the second season's, veering away from that a lot, which is good, And obviously, another thing with Stranger Things is that it was blatantly, clearly trying to mirror a lot of this stuff from the 80s horror.
Stephen King, the font,
and like,
the music.
And that's fine. And like, personally, I really dig Stranger Things, but like, we do talk about the parallels a lot.
I mean, honestly, if there was a closer ripoff of Firestarter, it was like Logan. Like I love Logan.
Yeah.
But,
I mean, because Logan, in terms of plot, is way more similar.
It
to
literally
Firestarter,
goes to the whole Mander sequence happens in Logan. Like it's different, but it's so similar.
Yeah.
And I love Logan, and I
too.
it's like. But I remember watching it I was reading Firestarter when I saw it for the second time, and I was just like, this is literally Firestarter, like the road aspect of it.
No, totally.
And like at one point, Charlie even refers to herself as a mutant or something. Yeah. There is a moment when Charlie is described as a mutant, and so
I also did like how a lot of the shop agents were actually stuntmen.
Yeah.
So that they could be, set on fire. And I'm telling you, like, I was like, wow, this is pretty cool. Even that sequence at the end, even though it does take a long time for her to burn up things, with those fireballs and stuff, I mean,
she's
it's
like
crazy.
Launching meteors.
Yeah. The fireballs look cool. That whole sequence, though, is way too long.
Does O.J. Simpson play O.J. in the movie?
Oh, I wish.
Unfortunately, no.
Boy. Yeah. I don't even remember O.J. being in the movie.
I actually do. I mean, I know O.J. Simpson is a horrible murderer, but him in The Naked Gun.
He's great.
I think he's actually a really good comic actor.
Well, also on a lighter note, Justin fixated and was very interested that he was amazed that there are wheat and raisin Chex, the cereal.
He has that box.
They have the box of wheat and raisin Chex. He's like, I've never seen that before in my life. When did this get discontinued? Like, I can't believe this exists.
It's the chocolate payday of Firestarter.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, also, another little tidbit was that Moses Gunn plays Dr. Pinchot. And he actually was supposed to be Judge Ferris in The Stand. But he got sick, and so they replaced him.
Did they do the garbage disposal thing in the movie?
No.
They don't?
No. There's no echoes or...
Oh, because they don't do the ricochets, you said.
But Pinchot is there at the end, and he gets fireballed.
Yeah.
That's like literally, though, the only things that are really different.
So we don't get...
They have to streamline it. Like, they take some people out. There's no Hockstetter.
Yeah. We don't get to see Martin Sheen attack a hose with a rake.
No, he just stands there like a dope as everything
and he gets
happens.
shot in the face.
Yeah, he gets shot. Yeah, Rainbury like shoots him in the head.
Oh, I just heard from Allison. She said that she did read it, and she said 3, I think. She said not her favorite, maybe 2.5.
Yeah.
So...
I think we gotta stick with 2. Wait, 2, maybe 2.5.
Maybe
I mean,
2.3.
Definitely averages out.
2.3 bright red Pennywise
Clown.
Well, what would you guys all give this original movie?
Well, I'd probably give the movie 3 bright red Pennywise clown noses. I don't think the movie's as bad. The thing was, when the movie came out, it was like kind of a big flop. It didn't make a lot of money. It eventually recouped its investment. Like, it was successful in terms of money, but reviews were pretty bad, and the audiences didn't really come out for it like they were the previous Stephen King movies.
And I think it can get away with not having as much thematic weight, more so than a novel can,
But I think the soundtrack is pretty solid. I think the acting is okay at times. David Keith plays Andy, and he's fine.
He's so young. He looks like he can't be her dad.
I know.
Let's see how old he was. Well, because he's supposed to be... David Keith's supposed to be about like our age. He's like in his 30s, right?
Mid-30s,
in the book,
I think so.
Let me see how old he was.
And so then. David Keith, though, the director even said that he was like their 12th choice.
Oh, I feel bad. That's sad,
I know, poor guy. But it's like... But, I think he does a fine job. I think there's actually...
I didn't think he did a bad job. Yeah, I actually liked David Keith.
I think the moment when he knows that his wife's body is in the laundry thing, and he knows it's in there and he keeps saying, please don't let it be in there. That's actually kind of a really
there's two moments in the movie. There's that moment and then the moment when Charlie gets shot in the neck.
Yeah.
And they all step out.
I felt like he really, comes through in those moments. Like as a father, I was like, I believed it. But, the movie's so.
Yeah, I think the final sequence has good moments, but it just kind of goes on.
He was 30 when the movie came out, which means he's probably 28, 29. So he's a little bit younger than I think he's supposed to be.
I really didn't dig the movie.
Yeah.
I didn't like it at all.
Yeah, wait, what? How many Bright Red Penny?
I would probably give it 1.
Whoa!
And I was watching with my boyfriend, he hasn't read the book.
Yeah.
The movie was completely new, and he couldn't even. He got up in the middle. He was this is boring.
What if he loved it? He's like, Mel, this is the greatest piece of cinema.
I will say, I really like the sequence you're talking about when she gets shot and then everyone in a hazmat suit comes out of the trees.
Yeah.
That was a cool moment.
That's kind of cool. Yeah. How do you like the Tangerine Dream?
I like that, and I like the part where they're testing her in the room, and this woman extra turns around and goes, "Alpha patterns look like the goddamn Andes."
I remember that. So what about it? Do you think fell flat? You just think it was kind of boring?
I thought because it borrowed so heavily from the book, the pacing was all wrong.
Yeah, the pacing was
especially bad. The initial scene where you see Vicky and Andy meeting, and they're just like, "I've loved you all my life."
Yes.
And you don't get
really
anything.
weird.
Oh yeah, we had Heather Locklear, right?
Oh yeah.
Is that a play? That's who plays Vicky in it? That's great. I always remember on the VHS box, there was a shot on the back of her. I think she had oven mitts that were on fire or something. Is that a thing?
That's She's only in two
mommy.
scenes.
Yeah, spared no expense for that scene.
Yeah. Spared no expense.
Yeah, Rainbird wasn't menacing.
No.
And hey, I love George C. Scott. I just watched The Changeling for the first time. If you guys haven't seen that, it's on YouTube. You can check it out. I'm probably outing whoever did on YouTube, but it's really good, and I love him. But yeah, it just doesn't do anything in this movie. And then and then they're way too faithful. The end, the whole barn sequence. I'm like, wow, here's something you could correct.
Yeah,
and it's like. He does the whole thing where he tells him to jump and he jumps off the thing.
Some
It's
of
just kind of
different. He doesn't attack the hose with the rake and
she goes to the New York Times at the end.
And she does go to the New York Times.
That's a little bit better than Rolling Stone. My thing is I think it's weird that they have to specify it needs to be a paper with no ties. I'm like, you can just show her walking into a newspaper office. We get what's going on.
They said that they have agents
That's
camped
why
out
there's people
at
there.
the New York Times.
But she goes in the movie, she goes in with Irv, right?
Yeah.
She's not on her own and all that. So they don't do any of that stuff at the end either.
I would even be fine if her, do the Road to Perdition thing, just show her going to the farm at the end and we get okay, she'll hopefully be safe, I did, because I just think I don't know. I just think of going into this office and it's I'm here to tell my story, and then it just seems so lame.
So wait, so how many?
Well, how many noses did you give it?
Yeah. How many noses?
Me?
Yeah.
Oh, I'd probably give it 2.
All right.
I have to be honest. I did not rewatch it. I saw it once when I was really young. I liked it okay when I was young, so I guess 3 bright red Pennywise clown noses. I remember the movie being a slightly more enjoyable experience than watching the book, but I wasn't. No, what's weird is Firestarter to me is this kind of weird anomaly book in King's canon, but I've talked to a lot of people. I feel like the word Firestarter and Drew Barrymore being in it and the score and some other things have made a lot of people. It's kind of like the Children of the Corn thing we were talking about. Even though it's not that good, I feel like it's gotten this weird latter day nostalgia surrounding it now.
Yeah.
It's just really strange.
Same
to me.
with the book.
Yeah. It's I actually had a coworker who saw I was reading it. I had the first edition paperback. And she was like, "Oh man, I used to love Firestarter," and I was like, "You can totally have this one done with it," because I told her I wasn't enjoying it a lot. But yeah, she was saying the same thing. She was like, "Oh, as a little kid, I really liked watching Drew Barrymore in this movie." And I guess maybe maybe there is kind of a cool thing when you're little to see this little kid starting some shit, So, but so I remember liking it okay when I was little. I'll give it 3 just to be generous. Yeah,
I think that averages out to about 2 bright red Pennywise clown noses.
Yeah. I don't know what. And I said just Ralphman liked the movie, right? You said.
Yeah, he said he liked it.
Yeah.
So tell us about Firestarter 2 Rekindled, Mac.
So unfortunately, I didn't get to
find it. You couldn't
find it. I couldn't find it. I really wanted to. I looked everywhere. It's just not out there. But we did watch the trailer for it, and it was the trailer? Awful. Well, basically, the plot of the movie is it's years later. Charlie's still out there. Rainbird is alive.
That's so absurd.
It's so weird, and it's played by Malcolm McDowell, which would probably the beginning of Malcolm McDowell was being in every movie and just phoning it in and losing his clout. But he plays Rainbird, and he's like pretty scarred, I think, and he has gone on and he's continued the. It negates the book. It's like the whole thing is like he's continuing the Lot 6 experiments, which he's very super uninterested in the book.
Yeah.
And even in the movie, he's just more interested about Charlie. But he's continued the experiments and has 5 or 6 young men who also have abilities as well. And although some of their abilities are actually pretty cool, there's like one person that can literally drain you of your life force, like your power, and he's kind of like the one that goes up against Charlie at the end. And there's a couple that have telekinesis, and but basically they go and search for her. And Dennis Hopper's in it.
Oh wow,
he plays another Lot 6 experimentee, another one of the probably someone that did it when Andy did it, and he can see the future. And
sounds like an involved trailer.
The plot is actually the plot is actually generally interesting, but it was it was like a sci-fi 2 night miniseries, and the production value is awful, and
Wait, so is Rainbird just supposed to have survived? I guess. I mean, I guess you could get away with.
He's like Loomis.
Yeah,
we're supposed to believe. Oh, actually, he survived, but he just has scars on one side of his face, kind of thing.
Yeah.
There's Randall has this FAQ series book about Stephen King adaptations that's pretty informative that a writer did a few years ago, and it covers every adaptation. And he watched Rekindled, and he had better things to say about it in the book than the original movie. He was saying that because Marguerite Moreau plays Charlie, and I love her from What American Summer and Mighty Ducks. He was saying she's actually really good as her, and the special effects kind of suck, but the movie it's at least a little bit more interesting of a plot than this. I mean, I remember seeing commercials for this, but never watched it. So who knows if that's accurate.
And again, I remember seeing the cover and with her on it, and I was always as a Mighty Ducks fan, I was always really into her and Wet Hot American Summer, obviously. But no, I remember thinking after reading about the sequel that I was like, again, I thought this is where the story starts. This is more interesting than the. Well, at least, and then you could do flashbacks to her time in the shop with her dad and stuff.
Yeah, but that's just I'm just much more interested in Charlie as an adult than a kid.
Where's the action? This is like the James Cameron sequel, it's all action oriented instead of spending time with Andy getting fat.
So how many bright red penny eyes clown noses would you give the trailer?
The trailer?
Yeah.
Oh, 1.
Only 1? It was a bad trailer.
No, it's a really poorly put together trailer. It's what do you do?
I'm sure we have some constant listeners who have seen Firestarter 2 Rekindled.
Yeah.
So if you have, please
reviews.
and give your own bright red Pennywise clown nose rating to it. And once again, I think this, although it's not one of my favorite King books, I think it could warrant a good sequel. So maybe they'll do something with it, or do something.
Well, they're
with
doing
the
a
shop.
remake with Hollywood hack Akiva Goldsman.
Who's going to be? Do we know anything else about that, or
just being released through Blumhouse, and it's just a remake.
Man, it's weird. I like a lot of Blumhouse.
Who would you choose to play?
Oh, that's good. That's
Charlie?
a good question.
Yeah.
As an adult, or
I guess an adult, because I don't really know that many younger child.
Millie Bobby Brown.
Well, I guarantee they're probably trying to get Millie Bobby Brown to play.
Yeah.
Charlie.
Oh, I hope not. That would be so weird to do that.
But that's it's Akiva Goldman. He's an idiot.
Riddle's such an axe to grind with him. Yeah. Hey, you shelled out money to see his Transformers last
Put
night.
money in his pocket.
I will say something you guys should watch, and we'll post though, is that Drew Barrymore in season 32 of SNL.
Oh yeah,
and I know that only because we found it on Hulu, and I noticed that it was season 32, not like some SNL,
Yeah.
SNL head. But they pick up with Drew Barrymore reprising her role as Charlie McGee, and they're promoting Firestarter brand smoked sausages, and it's all about these sausages that her and her husband package that she cooks with her mind. And Jason Sudeikis plays this. Her husband that is also the singer and does all the music for the commercial.
Oh, that's kind of
and
fun.
then they kind of slowly reveal that he's really terribly scarred on one side of his face, and he's actually quite frightened of her. But
that's actually pretty good.
She plays it straight, and it's just hi, I'm Charlie McGee, but most people know me as Firestarter. And then she's goes into the whole thing my parents did this thing of the shop. It's very, very right out of the book, so it's very funny if you've read the book.
Yeah.
Well, I do like it because that's the second, and maybe there are more, but that's the second SNL sketch they've done with a character from a King book But the whole joke being that they're using their powers for really mundane purposes, like because they have Christopher Walken, the Dead Zone. Mac is showing me the Firestarter smoked sausages. That's really funny. I like its Firestarter brand, but because there's the one we talked about with the Dead Zone where it's Johnny Smith like being in an office environment and using his powers for that. So I think that's a good gag. I always like that. Yeah.
So yeah, we'll look forward to the remake from Blumhouse, and we'll probably do an episode on that when it comes out, if it ever comes out. You never know, in Hollywood.
Hey, man, development hell. Yeah,
development hell.
Yeah.
So, any other final thoughts on Firestarter before we usher ourselves out here?
Nah. I'm looking forward to the next.
A perfectly fine book. We're looking forward to the next. In 2 weeks, we'll be touching on Roadwork, the third of the Bachman books. Definitely a step up from Age, but who knows if it'll be on par with Long Walk.
I don't remember a ton from Roadwork, and you started rereading it, right, Mac? But yeah.
Very interesting, very different from everything we've read so far.
Yeah.
It's a neat book. So yeah, we'll be back in 2 weeks with that. We'll be back in 1 week with some more needful tweets, and Dark Tower is on the horizon. So stay tuned, because we're probably going to be able to get in early and share some thoughts with you guys.
It's a couple weeks from now, or what?
August 4th is when it comes out.
Oh my gosh, that's super soon.
I know.
It's crazy.
So stay tuned. We're going to have plenty of discussion about Dark Tower. In the meantime, long days and pleasant nights.
I got some hot friends. God, I got some hot friends. I got some hot friends. God, I got some hot friends. But you know you want somebody to treat you good.
Consequence Podcast Network.